Let me fix this a little bit. Okay. All right. Shalom, everyone. Hello. How are we doing? We doing okay? Yes. Awesome. Robert, let me get a pen off my desk. There should be one right behind you. One of my blue pens. Yeah, just the pen. I don't need the paper. I should be able to scribble whatever I want right on here. Thank you. Okay. All right, a couple of quick announcements. Somebody's missing a ukulele in a soft case. If anybody's seen that, we're missing a ukulele in a soft case. We also wanted to say that we do have a lady here that could use some help. She's got a couple of children, one special needs. And so, Amy, where's Amy? Stand up. Okay, so if you would like to be able to help her, see Amy. Amy's helping to coordinate. She will need help in the morning so that she could actually get things done like a shower and a bathroom. She has an autistic child, so she's going to need some help. Also help getting to and from meetings and meals. So whatever needs there are, Amy's aware of them. She's been helping her. So we would like some of the lovely people in this room, some of the ladies specifically, that can help her with just some of the special needs that are there. Please see Amy after this meeting, and we can arrange for you to be able to help. Thank you. Okay. All right. We got a lot of people here. You guys must have all kinds of problems with your money, like everybody else. All right, so this is called Up to the Challenge. So we're going to begin here. Up to the Challenge. And I call it Up to the Challenge because really, are you up for the challenge that life is a challenge? I mean, everything in life is challenging. We find that it's not as easy as we thought it would be. You know, when we're kids, we're thinking, oh yeah, we're going to just be great. Everything's going to be wonderful. And it doesn't work out exactly like that. And so this particular Up to the Challenge is focused on aiming higher, and specifically dealing with finance stuff. What we've done in the past is we've done one last feast or so where we were talking specifically about getting to know yourself so you can understand yourself and others better. Okay, and how many of you did that program? Okay, a lot of you didn't. We should probably do that also at some point. Okay, but we use the personality test as a vehicle for that, where you get to figure and understand yourself, like what motivates and drives you, why do you struggle with certain things, why do you excel at other things, and also why do you have challenges dealing with people that are not exactly like you, or why do you have challenges with people who are exactly like you? Okay, because we get to understand personality stuff. Okay, so hopefully that's part of the picture. What's going on with the screen? Okay, there we go. All right, but before we start, dealing with life requires what's known as being able to think outside the box. How many of you have done this think outside the box thing before? Okay, so when we go through this process, hide your papers. Okay, so what I want you to do is understand that when it says think outside the box, there actually was a test. IBM used to use it to test people applying for jobs in the engineering, and development departments for IBM. And so the test looked like this. Hopefully everybody can see that. No, it doesn't look like that. We're having a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Ground control, we're having a problem here. Okay, there it is. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is draw a set of 9 dots, 3 rows of 3 on your paper. We're not going to take forever with this. We're just going to give you an idea. 3 rows of 3. You're going to connect the dots with 4 straight lines without picking up your pen. Now, we're talking about 4 straight lines, so you can't just kind of circle and loop and wind around. You could do that with 1 line if you could do that. Okay, 4 straight lines, leaving your pen or pencil, touching the paper as you draw those lines. Now, obviously, there's a laser on this, isn't there? Okay, how do I do that? There we go. You could obviously do 3 lines. Boom, boom, boom. There they are. But that would be having to lift up your pencil. Right? You'd have to put your laser on it, let go, draw another line. You could do that this way. So 3 lines isn't going to do it. 4 lines, don't lift up your pencil. Go! If you're at home, it's going to be very boring for the next few minutes if you're not doing this, so do this too. Okay, so I want to give people a chance to try this because it's a powerful lesson and metaphor when you see that. Okay? Connect the dots, 4 straight lines without picking up your pen or pencil. And while you do that, I'm going to write a few notes for myself because I haven't written what we're going to do today yet, and I'm going to write it now. So take your time. Okay, and no helping your neighbor. Just try and figure this out yourself. I can hear you talking already. Remember about the blind leading the blind? All right, 4 straight lines without picking up your pen. Okay, how many are ready to give up? Okay, how many need a few more minutes? Because you still want to give it a shot. Okay, let me give you a couple more minutes. I don't want anybody to say, well, if you gave me a couple more minutes, I'd have got it. So we'll give you a couple more minutes. I think when I did this, the room was a lot darker. That's why I chose yellow dots and a white background, but it's a lot of light in this room, so it's a little bit tough. Who knew we were going to be in a room with like nothing but walls of windows and glass with lots of light coming in, which is great, but not for this. Fortunately for you, this is the only thing that's going to be on the screen. So once we finish this little thing, everything else will be without needing the screen. All right, who's ready now for the answer of you guys from before? Are you ready to quit? Nolan's like, I got it. I'm going to get this. He's like, no, I'm not going to get it. Okay, anybody still doing it and working on it? It's just a minute more. We're good? Okay, so let's kind of explain what's going on here. Okay, this is the box. Right? What was the name of this thing? Thinking outside the box. 'Cause we've all heard that phrase, can you think outside the box, right? We've all talked about that. Well, it really was a test. Now, when you saw this, was there a box here? No. Now, when I used the word box, you already saw a box. So I kind of pre-programmed your brain. I mystically got in and brainwashed you. No. It's easy how we can get programmed with certain things. Just the idea that and it actually had the phrase, think outside the box as part of it. But still, guess what? You got stuck inside the box. Because you saw a box when there wasn't a box. Okay? So some of you thought that the 4 lines, which if you do them, you notice it misses a dot in the middle? Okay, so 4 lines around the outside doesn't work. Some of you tried that. All right? But there's no box there. Okay? But if you were to draw a line, and you could do this with different configurations of where you start, but I'm going to give you this one option here. If you were to draw a line across the bottom dots like that, then go diagonally across catching 2 of the dots, then go down catching those 3, and then back through the middle, you will see that you've connected all of the dots with 4 straight lines. But here's the important part. The screen goes out. That's the important part. Okay, notice that these areas here are outside the box. You had to go beyond so that your straight line would catch the right ones when you went. So you had to be able to go outside the box. Are we getting it? Does it make sense? So the whole idea is that you think outside the box. Okay, you guys can turn that off now, and I don't need the laser pointer anymore unless I want to blind somebody. I can zap you with the laser pointer. Okay? And so what we're going to be doing today in the Up to the Challenge, and always in the Up to the Challenge type of things, is get you to stop thinking inside of the box. It's boxed in thinking that has your relationships messed up. It's boxed in thinking that has your finances messed up. It's boxed in thinking that has your vertical relationship, because people have told you you can't go outside of that box. Okay, some of you were in a Catholic box or a Methodist box or a Baptist box or an Adventist box or a Presbyterian box, or you know what I'm saying? But also, you've been told things like, well, money is evil, so you don't need to have any, so you don't want any, you're always afraid to make it. Or you've been told you're a failure and you'll never make it. We've been put inside boxes. Or I should say, you've allowed yourself to have your mind put inside of a box. So we have to free our minds from the box. So I've got the red pill and the blue pill. I'm kidding. Pass them, Robert, can you pass those around, the red pills and the blue pills? Okay. But just like in the movie The Matrix, and I love that movie for the reason that it's got some really powerful metaphors for what we're doing. I keep moving and messing you up. Sorry, Monica. And I never move. I usually stay right here. See that? She's like, oh, sure, I just finally volunteered to help with cameras, and Rabbi's moving. He never moves.
I was trying to focus.
Oh, you're just trying to focus. I'm trying to focus, too. Don't distract me. Okay. But the movie The Matrix has some powerful things. The idea of, when Neo gets told, you need to free your mind. Now, what did we talk about during the What Are You Thinking teaching? We talked about that thoughts, which enter our mind, when our emotions get connected to them, lead to actions, right? We do something. Actions done repetitively lead to habits. Habits done repetitively lead to a destiny of some sort, an end point. So, your finances are an absolute 100% result of thinking, emotions, habits, and actions, all that stuff together. That's why you're where you are financially, okay? Because of how you think, because of how you feel, because of then what you do in response to that, and how you do it repetitively resulted in a destiny of financial whatever it is. Most people end up with more month at the end of the money, and that's the problem. Okay, their money's all gone. They spent their paychecks. Most of you, how many of you have your paycheck is spent before you get it? Okay, you pretty much need it to pay what you already. It's already gone. That's part of our life. Most of us are existing paycheck to paycheck. Okay, well, most of us can relate to that, all right? And so as we go through this process, I want us to understand that it's the same for this as it is for all of the areas of our lives, okay? All areas of your life. In other words, there are spiritual areas. We've talked about those quite a bit, obviously, because that's what we do, right? We're a ministry. And getting those spiritual areas right have to do with how we think and how we have our emotions about those things and the actions we take and the habits and the destinies. Well, the same thing would be about our health, our physical bodies. How we think about that will determine emotionally attached to those things, whether we exercise or not, what we eat or don't eat, and how we take care of ourselves and our health. The same thing goes with our social interactions, because some of us struggle a lot in the social area, okay? And that may have also a lot to do with how we think and emotionally how we're then attaching those thoughts together and do certain things on a repetitive basis. And so it also works with our mental and emotional states. You can do things, and that's what a lot of the counseling that we do is, to work on how to be more balanced in how we react to things and how we handle things. That's sort of a more mental, emotional thing. And of course, we have our financial, occupational type of things. So, in these 5 areas, and I could have broken it into more areas, that's kind of wraps up most of your life, right? Your spiritual areas, your physical, your mental, emotional, your social, and your financial. Actually, I could have put in there another one that has to do with just entertainment and enjoyment. That's an area of your life too, because you may have some things that you do for entertainment and enjoyment that are not very good for you. And some of them are really great for you. And so even those areas, actually even the fact that you may do it not enough or too much. Some of you need a vacation. Some of you take too much vacation even when you're not officially on vacation, because you're taking a lot of breaks here and there all the time. And so I should have even added that into the idea of what do we do when we need a break, and what does that look like and how often? Because some of us don't take enough and some of us do too much. And so really what we're looking for here, drop the pen. What we're looking for here is appropriate balance. See, I think one of the reasons why any one of these areas is not functioning fully or correctly is because we're out of balance. Can we agree on that? Okay, we have a balance problem. And that doesn't mean that it has to be just about our money. It could be about our physical body, our spiritual aspects, mental, emotional, social, vacation, whatever. All of those areas we could have. Now, some of you don't like the number 6 because I stopped in 6 instead of finding a 7th one. Don't let that bother you. I was thinking I could fix it for you, but you know what? I'll let you suffer for a little bit. 6 is the number of man, and you know what? These are man problems. Okay, this is people problems. These are things we should be able to fix ourselves. Okay? And a lot of you are praying for Abba to take all these problems away. No, he's not going to. I'm not saying don't pray for it, but when you pray for it, what is he going to do? He's going to help you get to the place where you fix it. Because the reason you're in the problem is because some aspect of your life is not where it needs to be. Whatever it has to do with those different categories we talked about. All right? So I'm going to give you sort of a model here, and you can write this down if you want. I kind of just modeled this out 5 minutes ago. I was just kind of trying to think about how I wanted to start with this. And you can apply this to any one of the categories. Okay, you can apply this to any one of the categories. Okay, the first thing that needs to happen in any one of those areas, well, let's use finance, because that's what we're going to talk about today, our money issues. First, we need to be motivated. Okay, step one, you need to be motivated. Without motivation, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to get done. Can we agree? Okay, so what is motivation? You have to want to do something or want to stop doing something. You have to be driven, motivated. There has to be something that's driving you to do something different. We call that change. People in general do not like change. Can we agree to that? Okay? Why? Because there's a lot of unknowns about change, because we don't know what's going to happen if we change, and we're afraid generally of the unknown. We can all agree to that, hopefully. So we need to start off being motivated. We'll talk a lot more about that in a minute. I'm going to just give this quickly as an overview, then we'll start to go back through it. So then once you're motivated, what you should be doing is seeking guidance. Okay, you're motivated to fix, change, or alter something that you see is not working right. It's kind of like the journey that I talk about, right? On the journey, Abba first pokes you and disturbs your peace. Well, until your peace is disturbed in any one of those areas of your life, you're not going to do anything. Okay, but once it's disturbed and disturbed enough, then you decide, I need to do something, and so we seek guidance. Here's the thing. You usually go over to another broke person to ask about being broke. Because after all, they're experts on fixing a problem you both have. And we do this in all the areas of life. We go find somebody just as messed up as we are and get counsel from them. Okay, so one of the things that we need to do is when we're motivated is find somebody who knows the way out of the problem and has a solution. Somebody that has, maybe they've gone through it and they've successfully navigated out of it. Maybe they've got special training at it. Okay, especially with health type of things, you might want to go find somebody. We've got a lot of people here with special training in the health area. Okay, EMTs, nurses, naturopathic things, all kinds of health things, right? So you need guidance. You're motivated and you get guidance. And with the guidance, guess what you find? That through the guidance, you can identify what the real issue is. Because what you think the issue may be is not the issue. The problem you may know. In other words, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. Okay, the issue may be whatever it is causing you to be in that position. Are you spending too much? Are you not making enough? Is there a combination of both? All kinds of things. Okay? So with the guidance, when you go in, now what are you looking for a guidance? Somebody who's anointed, appointed, someone who's gifted and talented in the area you're struggling in. And let's not make this into a big, God has to have ordained some... No, but you know there are people that are... Look, when my car has a problem, I have found some people are not very anointed and appointed at fixing it, and others are better. Guess who I go to fix it? The ones who are better. Okay? Who have a talent to just look at something and go, oh, well, that's what's wrong with it. Here, let's fix this. Boom, boom, boom. It's done. So you want that for any of the areas of your life, looking for the guidance, and they can help you identify what really the issue is. What's causing the problem? You don't need the guidance person to identify the problem. You're motivated because you've identified the problem. The problem is I don't feel good. Okay, you want to have a health person. The problem is I don't have enough money. Have a finance person. By the way, I have a finance background, in case you're wondering. Because some of you are thinking, Rabbi, you're the rabbi. What do you know about finances? I have a finance background. I did financial planning and stuff through insurance companies that taught financial planning. I did commodity stocks and all of those kind of things and Forex trading. I know a lot about finance and money. Okay? I've also been bankrupt. I understand how bad that could go. I'm not ashamed. I mean, I'm ashamed, but I'm not ashamed to tell you. Okay? Because I felt really stupid like anybody does who has to go bankrupt. Why didn't I fix this and get it before it became such a big problem? The good thing was I didn't let that stop me from finally fixing it. Okay? Now, so you're motivated, you're seeking guidance, you've identified the issue. Guess what you need to do now? Go back and seek more guidance. Because now that you know what the issue is, now you need guidance on what to do next. So with each one of these steps, you're going to be seeking guidance, doing whatever it is, and getting more guidance. Okay, so then, now hopefully after getting guidance, you should be continuing and growing in what? Your motivation. You still want to get this done. You're still driving and driven to get this thing done. And then you're going to do what? Seek more guidance and identify the solution. Okay, through the first set of guidance and motivation, you figured out what the issue was. Now you're getting guidance and you're still motivated now to figure out how to fix it. Okay, so you're seeking the solution, and now you're getting, again, after seeking the solution, getting more guidance. Then you still should be motivated, and through guidance, develop a plan of action to implement the solution. A plan to get that thing fixed, whatever it is, to resolve or solve the problem. All right? So now you've got a plan. You know what the issue is. You know what the solution is. You developed a plan of action. You're still motivated. You're seeking more guidance. And that person's now going to help you figure out how to work that plan. Because just because you have a plan doesn't mean you're actually going to work it. How many people know, maybe intimately, like looking in the mirror, somebody that knows what they need to do, knows how to do it, and everything else, but isn't getting it done? Most of you probably could think of yourselves. That's where guidance is there also to coach you through. Think of that guidance as being a coach. Someone who's going to give you guidance and instruction, but also encourage you and coach you and motivate you to say, let's go, let's do it. Are you doing the plan? Because you're going to have to work the plan. You'll get more guidance, you'll continue in your motivation, and then you're going to need that guidance person to check in with you and help you check to see, is the plan working? Because you know what you might have to do? You might have to adjust the plan. Do you know that most of the time an airplane is off course? Isn't that encouraging? Most of the time, even when you drive though, you're making minor adjustments all the time. You're always just slightly off course. That's why you're kind of little adjustments on the wheel, which you do very relaxed and easy now. But when you first started driving, it was more like, because next thing you know, oh, I'm going too far to the right. Oh, I'm going too far to the left. And you're making the wheel. We're always making those minor adjustments. But how are we doing this? We're paying attention to, are we on the path? Are we on track to where we're supposed to be going? And so you're going to need to check in to see if you're on target. Are we going where we're supposed to be going? Is this working? Okay? And then, of course, with motivation and guidance, you're going to now make adjustments to the plan as needed. Because it may turn out that the first plan you choose isn't going to be getting you where you want to go fast enough, or maybe you realize that wasn't exactly where you wanted to go. And so you make those adjustments. Maybe you got to redirect things just a little bit. Life can come up and give you reasons to want to need to get someplace faster or slower or however it needs to be. Okay, this is making sense. Is this helping? Okay? So you must maintain and be motivated. We'll talk about that a lot in a minute. You're going to need to seek somebody to help you, to advise you, to coach you. We'll call that guidance, okay? We see this all over Scripture. There's always those who went to someone to get advice, guidance, instruction, correction, whatever was needed to be. Someone who will tell you what really is happening and not sugarcoat it. Someone's going to tell you the truth. So you're going to find that person and work with them, and they will help you identify the issue, identify a solution, develop a plan of action, work that plan of action. They're not going to do it for you. Check in with you and help you to look and identify whether or not it's actually getting you where you want to go. Maybe it is, but not fast enough, or whatever it is that's going on, and then help you adjust the plan. And then help you stick to it back and recycle through the whole thing. For example, let's say the plan doesn't seem to be working so good. So what do? You go back and identify the issue, come up with a solution, okay, develop a plan of action or adjustment. I mean, you can keep going through this cycle. This is something you can apply to every area of your life. It doesn't have to be, it sounds kind of mechanical, I understand. But it doesn't have to be that way for all things. Okay, your spiritual life is working a certain way. You realize that it's not going the way you want it to go. You get some guidance because you're motivated, because you don't like being where you are. Okay, let's actually stop and talk about that for a moment. All right, nothing is going to happen as long as you're tolerant of where you are. You can tolerate a lot. You're not going to be really motivated till you no longer want to tolerate where you are in any of these areas. When it becomes intolerable, that's a strong word. Can we agree? That's pretty strong. That's intolerable. When you feel that way about things, generally speaking, I would guess you make changes. The problem is that you're tolerating things you shouldn't tolerate. You've gotten complacent or comfortable, and so you're willing to suffer on a certain level in quiet misery. But not so quiet, because you'll talk to certain people about it and whine about it and everything else, but you're not willing to do anything about it. And probably some of you at some point have said to someone or had someone say to you, will you please stop whining about it if you're not going to do something about it, whatever it is in life. Can we agree? We've heard that, or we've said it to somebody, because you get tired of hearing it, don't you? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, are you going to do anything about it or just complain about it? Well, you're not going to do anything about it until you're in enough pain. Until your pain level is high enough, you're not going to, A, either do something about it, and B, you're not going to allow anybody to help you. Okay? Nobody can help you until you're in enough pain. In other words, I'm not talking about real pain, but your perceived pain even, if it's high enough, will generate the motivation to do something about the problem. Or even just to figure out what the problem is. I don't like being where I am. When you get to the point where that's no longer tolerated, because right now I don't like where I am, but I don't really want to do anything about it because that's too much work, or it's too scary, or it's too something. Because you know what? Basically, we're lazy. I don't mean lazy in all areas, but there are areas where we're lazy. You may be incredibly industrious as any one of these categories, but have that other place where you're just, I can't be bothered. I don't want to do it. I've walked into some people's houses. You can see where they're lazy sometimes. They're just not going to clean it up or do this or do that but they're incredibly industrious in other ways. So don't, when I say this, think I'm saying you're a lazy person. It may be just too much effort to you to get your budget right or to know where most people, when I talk to them, have no idea where their financial status is. They have no idea how much money they have coming in or going out. None. Because you know why? They're lazy. It's too much work. I don't have time. I don't want to, because you don't want to do it. We all have work we don't mind doing, and to us it's not work, and work that is something that is distasteful. My wife's a little strange. She thinks cleaning the house is fun. If you come to the house while she's doing it, she'll ask you to join in. She thinks it's fun. Her and her sister, the two of them used to clean the house and have contests of who can clean it better for Shabbat. And they thought it was fun. I'm not making this up. I'm not being a wise guy. She thinks cleaning is fun. Organizing things is fun. Putting everything right in its own proper place. And she thinks this is fun. Some of you may agree. Some of you don't. Everybody's perspective is different. Some of you may think getting the finances right is fun. You enjoy it. You like looking at the numbers and checking your balance every month and seeing where you are and all those kind of things. Other views, that's very much drudgery and tedious work that you don't want to have anything to do with. Okay? And so some of you, will pay the bill as soon as it shows up, if you have enough to do it. Some of you will never do that just because you don't. It's for whatever reason. I can't just be bothered. It's like work. I'll wait till that last second when the pain of not paying it and getting in trouble is so high that then I'll pay it. By the way, any of you do your papers like that for school? I did. Okay? All papers got done between midnight and 4 in the morning by me. Now, when I was young enough and didn't type, by the way, back then you had to use typewriters. Right? Remember that? I didn't type very well, so my mother told me, I will type it for you, but it has to be in my hand by 10, or whatever time it was, by the day before it was due, or I am not typing it for you. So I'm there at 2 in the morning like this, looking for keys, trying to type this thing. And then I get on a roll, and then this is the old typewriters with the little arms, and they would jam. And I was like, argh! Before they invented that little roller ball thing, right? That little type ball. I was like, oh, man. Because I'd be like, and they get all locked up together. You got to unjam the whole thing, get the white out, I mean, it was really tough. But you know what had happened? The paper got assigned. I knew I had whatever amount of time. Let's say it was due in 2 months. Well, the pain of not getting it done versus the pain of doing it was very high when I had 2 months to go. The pain of not getting it done versus doing it was reversed when I only had like 12 hours before I had to have it handed in. Because I wasn't about to deal with the pain of showing up and getting an F. And so then all of a sudden what happened? My motivation was greatly increased. Here's the cool thing. You can control your level of pain. You can, think of it like Madison Avenue. That's where the marketing, there's known for Madison Avenue. All the commercials and stuff, originally, a lot of those agencies were on Madison Avenue in New York City. So the whole idea was that that group of people that come up with a lot of these marketing plans are here to create in you the giant carrot stick thing. They want you to know that if you don't buy that product, some part of your life will be less, you'll be missing something, or if you buy it, you'll have. Why else would you need, either fancy cars or, good-looking men or women to buy a beer? Is it going to make the beer taste any better? No. But the person buying is thinking, hey, I drink this. I get the car. I get the girl. It's lying to our brains, but they're basically marketing to your head. Guess what? You could do the same thing. You could sit down and say to yourself, I want to make sure I understand this is what I get if I make the choices to go this way, and this is what I get, and you can make it really, really painful to not make the decisions you do, or to keep doing the things you shouldn't do. You can create a level of pain. And you can make that motivation strong. Because again, remember, if you're not motivated, if you're not in enough pain, you're not going to do anything. You're gonna want. Yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to isn't going to get anything done. Can we all agree on that? Okay, I'd like to is a waste of time. Don't even say it. Well, I'd like to fix the finances. Well, I'd like to buy a new car. I'd like to this. I'd like to that. None of that gets anything done. When you want it bad, when you have a generated, desire and motivation, it's like the old saying that says, if you want something bad enough, you'll figure out how. You ever watch a kid? Watch those little kids, the little ones. And they want something and they can't really get to it. They'd impress the engineers with what they might stack to try to get to that thing. And it doesn't necessarily fall down either. But if they want something, they'll nag you, they'll do whatever they know will work, but they will persist and persist and persist because they want it. That's all they understand is I want it. And so can you get that strong a motivation and be that persistent like the kid that wants the cookie? Or the toy you took away? That is one relentless thing there. 2 or 3 years old? That is the picture of pure desire and relentlessness. Can you harness that, though, without being as annoying as that could get with the 2 and 3 year old? Can you harness it for yourself and be that focused? The most successful people in life in any area are the people that want it bad enough. If they're more successful than you, I promise you it's not because they're more gifted and talented. It's because they want it more. Okay? When you look at the top athletes, you come to find out, if you study about them or find out about their routines and stuff, that the Michael Jordans of the world, okay, or the Tom Bradys of the world as a quarterback, etc. These other, I don't care if you like these guys or not. These are guys who are first in, last to leave, studying the films, practicing. Michael's in there shooting. He's the best player when he was playing. He's in there practicing and shooting free throws before anybody ever shows up and after they leave. That relentlessness brings the higher level, the commitment brings the higher level of result. And that's the same for anything. I'll give you an example of how this could even work in the spiritual world. I had somebody came up to me many years ago. We were doing a live Bible study like we just did today, like reading the chapters we did. And we were doing the Torah portions. And the guy came up to me before we did it. He said, Rabbi, I really appreciate we do these studies. I appreciate that we have these opportunities and you get to share with us and discuss and everything. But you know what? I'd like to learn how to do this myself, so I don't necessarily need to have you do this type of thing like that. So how do you put a teaching, like when you put a teaching together, how do you do that? Now, he was talking about it during the Bible study, but really he was talking about the teaching. How do you put a teaching together? Because I was teaching the Torah portion, and I was showing all the connections to things in the Torah portion. Okay. I said, well, it's not a problem. I'll explain to you what I do. So first, obviously, I'm going to read the material. And as I'm reading it, I'm going to look at all of the key concepts in there. Then I'm going to see every verse that has the same word or concept in it in the scriptures, and I'm going to read all of those verses, and then I'm going to look up within those verses any verses connected to those verses, and sometimes I'm going to read whole chapters. He said, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. I said, yes, it is. But that's what it takes to do it. There's no shortcut. And so the whole thing is success in any area of your life is going to take effort. And you know what? You'll put in that effort if you're motivated. You'll put it in. The problem is, without guidance, you'll put in a whole lot of effort, maybe in the wrong direction. Anybody ever done that? Boy, you're just going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction. You know what's wrong with that? It's not so much that you impact and hit something at 100 miles an hour, but it means if you're going in the wrong direction, you're now even further from where you're trying to go. But then you got there real fast. Because you were just... Now, we see that as parents with our children. Whoa, slow down there, boy. Slow down there, girl. What are you trying to do here? Because they're off, and they've got it all figured out and have no idea what they're doing. And before something breaks or gets messed up or whatever, you want to grab a hold of them and say, okay, hold on, slow down. Let's talk about how this is going to be done. But who does that for us in our finances? Nobody. Okay? When you have, I talked about this a lot, in life, I always say the two biggest things that we do, we have no guidance for, we have no training for, getting married and having babies. Well, there's a third one. Who teaches you how to deal with your money? Nobody. Not unless you go to school and take finance courses, and even then, that's not really very useful, unless you're going into finance as a business, like the financial world. So you're talking about stocks and bonds and running companies and all that kind of stuff. But how about just personal finance? We don't know how to do personal finance, okay? I mean, we're told lies. Picture this as a credit card, right? There's a room key for over the other building, but let's picture this as a credit card. We're told that you can use this to spend money. That's a lie. You can use this to write an instant loan. Now, if you wanted to go and buy dinner, would you go to the bank first and take out a loan? So why would you put it on the credit card? Do you need to take out a loan to eat dinner? Do you need to take out a loan to buy whatever? But that people, they don't tell you that. They tell you can spend with your credit card. And you know what? We believe them. But it's like writing an instant loan. So we're lied to about our finances. We don't know anything about it. We're told to go to school, get a good career, get a good education, get a good job. Okay, the education part I get. You go to school, you're supposed to get that. Of course, mostly you don't. But even assuming you did get a good education, they haven't told you how that translates now into a job. And what job? And which one do I get? And what happens often is that we are excited enough when we're young to get a job enough to, get some spending cash and maybe get a vehicle, and then we're able to go out and have some fun with our friends, and we kind of get trapped at that level. And so I'm not picking on you if you make, under $15 an hour. If you make under $10 an hour, whatever it is. But, if your mindset was clear, I think you would realize that those jobs, the Walmart jobs, the fast food jobs, the minimum wage jobs, are awesome for a very select group of people. I'm not profiling here. Those that are young, high school, college, extra spending money, and those that are older, who are on retirement, who don't want to work a whole lot because they want a little bit of extra spending money. For everybody else in the middle, you need more than that's going to ever get you. Can we be honest about that? That's why you have more month at the end of the money. Because we're not aiming high enough. I was cursed or blessed. I think I was blessed at this point. But I grew up in New York City. Nobody I knew had even a thought of coming out of college and doing a minimum wage job or even you understand what I'm saying? Because that would never, ever help them get an apartment or anything else. You'd never be able to live like that. I mean, it's expensive to live in the city, especially the city, like New York City is known as it's the city there. And so I had friends and I did have jobs. Look, I remember working as a lifeguard in the summer, making $123 a week. And I got a raise because they raised minimum wage. So 1 year we got a raise of about 25 cents. When minimum wage went from, I don't know what it was, like $3.15 to $3.35 or something like that. Okay? Because think of that, 40 hours times about $3, that's your 120. Okay? That was before taxes. And I was excited about that because I was 17. I would not be excited about that at 22. That's not going to pay for anything. And so we have not been taught. Why? Well, let's see, my parents didn't do these things. So maybe you had parents that generationally just had the kind of that kind of just enough to get by job. Problem is, you can't really support a family with a job. You need a career. Jobs don't pay. Careers pay. Not all of them, but that there's a sort of a differentiation. I'm not saying jobs are bad. Jobs serve a really important purpose until you get the career. But you got to figure out and find your path. You got to aim higher. Because when we did the tithing teaching, one of the things I said that we were able to do with the tithing teaching is that it brought to your attention that you had one of two problems. Either you were selfish, which is why you didn't tithe, or you had a finance problem. It was going to expose one or the other. For most people, it was probably the finance problem. I want to tithe. I don't know how I can do that and pay my bills. Well, you've got a problem. I would actually like our goal to be, this is going to blow your minds and you're all going to be mad and want to walk out. I think we should be able to live on 40%. Amen. Okay? When I say 40%, I mean here, well, let me kind of lay this out. You got your first tithe, your second tithe, your third tithe. Now you're on 70%. And then I said, well, we should be living on 60%. 40% gone. I put the wrong number here. Okay, we're going to take out 40%. And 10% should be for your future. Don't trust Social Security to get you there. Or some other, retirement program that's coming from a job or something that might not exist. How many people know people that lost their pension or lost whatever because the companies went and disappeared or whatever? Don't rely on that. But you should be able to take care of yourself by putting your own money aside. So you should be able to have your 10. You should be able to live on 60%. Some of you are like, I can't live on 100. I know. Let's fix that. Let's do what? Let's first get motivated that we want to figure out why we can't do this. And then identify the issue, and then get more guidance to figure out a solution, and get more guidance to develop a plan, and get more guidance to work the plan, and continue all the way down the process. Because this is where we really run into the problem. Social Security, everybody says Social Security, it's really SSI. It's an insurance plan. It's really not supposed to be, and this is, you want to fix the government problem? They should stop paying people Social Security who don't need it. When you buy car insurance, do they give you any money if you don't need it? If you don't wreck your car or do any other thing, do you get to use the insurance? No. If you have medical insurance, if you don't go to a doctor and spend, do you get any money? No. Why is Social Security the only one that people get it even if they don't need it? Well, I put into it. Well, you put into all the other ones too. I have car insurance. You know what I'm saying? You have these things because you're supposed to have them. So Social Security is broken because people think of it as part of their retirement plan. No, it was meant to be insurance for the few that somehow end up messed up at the retirement with nothing to help us with the poverty problem. Can we understand that? That's what it is. SSI. It's Social Security insurance. So if that's part of your retirement plan, you've already got a problem. That's not going to add up to very much. So if you're banking on that, and I know this is said all the time, but I don't necessarily believe it's going to happen. But a lot of people are worried that it won't even exist by the time you get there. They've been saying that for a long time, and it still exists. So I'm not so worried that it'll disappear. But why should you need it? It's an insurance plan that says, and it says, if you're either unfortunate enough because tragedies happen or you're dumb enough to end up really impoverished, we'll take care of you. Now, I can't predict whether or not you'll have tragedy, but you can certainly predict whether or not you could prevent being stupid enough not to take care of yourself. And I hate to say it that way, but the system wants us to be stupid and wants us to be sitting back and needing them for everything. Okay? To be enslaved to the public trough and lay sideways at it, just lapping it up with, for no effort whatsoever. But that's a life of mediocrity and frustration and suffering forever. Anybody done with that? Yes. Okay, if you're done with that, then you have to get motivated enough to do something. By the way, I don't care if you're 60 or if you're 20. It doesn't matter. You can change everything if you're motivated enough. I have a friend whose mom, I should find out because I always tell the story and I don't know how old she was. But I'm pretty sure she was really close to 60 when she decided she wanted to be an attorney. And so she went to school and she became an attorney. And she started that at almost 60. And it wasn't about the money necessarily, but it just shows you if you want something, you can start any time. Oh, but that's going to take 5 years. You know what's going to happen in 5 years? You're going to be 5 years older. What if you don't do something? You'll be exactly where you are now. Okay, any chance that if you keep doing what you're doing, that 5 years from now you're going to be in a different place? None. Because doing what you're doing has gotten you where you are now. That's one of the signs they say of crazy, is doing and doing, expecting a different result. If doing what you're doing has gotten you here, you are right now experiencing the result of all the things you've done up to this point. The actions, the thoughts, the emotions, the actions, the habits, etc., have gotten you to this destiny of where you are right now. You have, I know I'm beating you up a little bit. You have the power to change that right now. Get motivated, think differently, get real emotional about it, get committed and driven, look for someone to guide you, and you can get out of that place. All of you can. All of you can. By the way, even if you don't get it done, let's say you're a lot older and you're not going to get it done where you can actually utilize it, you'll have a much higher quality of life just knowing that you're working towards something. There's something about that energizes you. That there's optimism and excitement in doing something. Instead of wallowing back, sitting there and just, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. Right? Okay, there's a lot to that. So what is this going to take? Well, first it's going to take you taking responsibility for the level of abundance you have. This is not the health, wealth, gospel stuff. Step one, you got to realize this is on you. Don't blame your brother or your sister or your parents or the job or the this or the that. You can change all the things you need to change without blaming everybody. Some of them may have had something to do with why you're where you are right this second because you allowed that to happen. We're going to use the Yahweh sort of phrase here. Your life is exactly where it is because you either allowed it or caused it. Okay? You can write that down for yourself. We, just like our Creator, our situation, like the whole universe is the way it is because Yahweh allowed it or caused it. Your life is the same. You either allowed it or caused it. You know what that means? You can fix that. You can stop allowing and choose to cause something different. That's powerful. If you got nothing else out of this, that's right there. But first thing has to start with you have to take ownership of you. I talk about on a regular basis, and it's going to sound like I'm contradicting a little bit. I tell you to get off the throne. First, I want you to get on the throne. Take charge of your life. You can't submit yourself to anybody if you're not even in control of yourself. If everybody and everything around you is completely manipulating and moving around and you're just tossed to and fro by everybody, you can't submit yourself. I was a martial arts instructor many years ago. Oh, there's going to be a big blow up all over the internet. Oh, martial arts is pagan and this, that. Forget all that. I'm talking about history and listen to the point. Don't be distracted by your emotions. I'm talking to the 4 people that are doing that. Okay? But when I was a martial arts instructor, one of the things that we taught our students was that you cannot control the situation you're in or the enemy, someone attacking you, if you can't control you. The first one you got to learn how to control is you. So if you don't have control over your body and how it moves and how it reacts to different things, how are you going to control anybody else? Okay? This is very important that you understand. So you actually have to get a hold of yourself. So yes, get on that throne, get your life under control, then turn it over to Yeshua. Okay, I don't think I've really said that publicly that way, but I want to make sure you get that. Gain sovereignty over yourself so that you have everything you realize is within your control, so now you have something to actually hand him. Because there's parts of your life that's in your parents' control or your friends' control or your boss's control or this other person's control. And so there's too many people all sitting on the throne. Kick them all out, get yourself up there, get it all under control, and then hand it right back over to Yeshua and let him sit on the throne. I see some heads. That's good. Okay? You got to take responsibility for your level of abundance in all levels of your life. Let's talk about abundance. Abundance doesn't mean you're a billionaire. Well, it does, but it doesn't mean that has to be the only definition. When you have, look, we say this at every meal. Have you eaten and are you what? Satisfied. Everybody has their own level of satisfied. Not tolerate, satisfied. Some of you can be satisfied on a much lower level or higher level of any of these things, but you be satisfied. You don't need others really, or you don't want. I got to talk about the need and the want thing in a minute here. But you could be happy at a different level and be comfortable and not have any stress or feel like you're missing out or any of those things. But you have to know your level. At what level can you be satisfied? And so we call that abundance. Okay, wealth and abundance are not just having money. There's a lot of people with money that have no abundance and no wealth. They're miserable at a much higher, paycheck. Some of them are actually broke at a much higher paycheck. Okay, because the things that they own have bigger debt service and bigger all kinds of problems. And so you got a lot of people that just have a lot of money, at least as far as their paycheck, but they're in some of them are in much worse financial shape than you are. So don't be confused with making a lot of money and a paycheck as being wealthy or abundant. What do you do with it? That's going to make the difference. How do you handle it? Some of you actually make probably more than enough money. You don't handle it well. Remember I said the problem could be either, when it comes to these kind of things, either you're not making enough or you're not handling your money well. Or a combination of both. Okay, either you're not making enough or you're not handling it well. So where's this going to start? Taking responsibility. Stop blaming this or that or this or that. Because whatever the blame is, you can fix it. Well, I never had the education, so you go get it. Well, I didn't have the talent with this, so go do something else that you have a talent in. I mean, it's not this simple, but it is. That's where you sit down with your guidance person who could say, let's figure out what do you like to do? What are you good at? What kind of jobs utilize those talents and gifts? How can we find a way to make those into careers? We could provide the needs of our families. You may not realize all the talents and skills you have to use just to do whatever it is you do. There's an abundant amount of skills needed for anything that you do. But you may think it's limited, okay? Rick over here drives for Uber and for Lyft and things like that, and that's part of what he does. So you know what? You think, well, being a good driver is all he needs to do. Well, no. Also being able to show up on time and responsible. Also having people skills so people like him and want to use him again. Also I can go on and on and on. There's lots of skills doing something that seems like it's not a lot of skills. But there are an abundant amount of things that you can say, okay, those are skills. Some of those skills he can transfer to all kinds of different things. Maybe not the driving part, but some of the other things. The driving one might have more limited variances that he could use being the ability to drive to do. But how about all of his other people skills, his punctuality skills, his discipline, his patience with people, all these other things. And so you can get someone to help walk you through, well, I don't know what to do. That's great. What do you do? What do you like doing? And by the way, I want to just interrupt myself to say, if you can find a way to make a living doing what you like doing, you won't work. It'll work, but you won't be working. You might put in a lot of effort, but it's not work. Okay, some of you have watched me this week. By the way, this is what I do every day, even when I'm not here. Some of you know I was working until about 2:30 last night, counseling and working with people, and then I get up and start working again. If I'm not asleep, I'm pretty much working. But I can promise you that's a lot of effort, but to me it's not work. I love doing it. So if you can do what you love doing, the saying goes, if you can figure out a way to do what you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. That doesn't mean you're not going to actually go and have a job and put in a lot of effort. But if you enjoy it, it's not work. And so there are jobs that could utilize almost anything that you enjoy doing. It's just a matter of finding a way to make it lucrative, where you can make some money and pay your bills on a consistent basis. So I wanted just to kind of insert there. But you've got to take responsibility, okay? So you must start with acknowledging that you and you alone are responsible for your level of abundance in all areas of your life. Stop blaming anybody. And I don't want you to beat yourself up either, but I want you to have a level of pain, but not the kind that makes you depressed. Well, I'm just a loser and I can't do anything and I'm never going to. No, but I want you to say, look, how many of you have seen Gone with the Wind? Few people, okay? Well, you can look up this scene in Gone with the Wind. And I'm not recommending the movie or not, but there was a point where Scarlett is standing there and the city's burning basically, and she's like saying, I swear, blah, 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 that my family will never starve again. Remember that woman? Was she motivated? Was she in a high level of pain? Did she take action after that? Not all of it was good action either. She was willing to do anything. Don't go that direction. But see, get to that place where you say, this is stopping now. We're going to start changing. But you got to realize the only person responsible for that is you. Well, if my wife or if my husband or if my parents or just decide. Now, if you're married, do it together. Okay? And get counsel to help with that. But don't blame anybody else. Men, if you are married, this is your problem. If your wives make more than you and they've been providing, I get that. That may be a private, personal thing because you together agreed, because of career choices, that one makes a whole lot more than the other. That might work. We can talk about that. But I'm just saying is, you should and can provide. Now, I'm not talking about the few stay-at-home dad type of things and that kind of stuff because of the way the children and everything else. But just realize the burden of this, generally speaking, falls on you guys. You're supposed to be providers. That's what we were born to do. Provide and protect. Almost like the police, right? Provide and protect. That is our basic, simplest status of role. We get married, we provide and protect. We keep the family safe, and we make sure they're provided for. If you're not doing that, up to this point, you have failed your duty. Don't feel like a failure. You have failed. There's a difference between failing and being a failure. Okay? Because you can fix it. You can turn it around. You can make this work. Okay? This is a hard thing because I know, for example, I've seen this with the children. Well, someone said I was annoying, so I guess I'm just an annoying person. No, at that moment, what you were doing was annoying them. Don't own it as a status. If you failed, you're not necessarily a failure. You just failed at that one thing at that one time. If you read any of the motivational things out there, and from the guys who were successful, not just the guys teaching it, so if they interview these billionaire guys and everything else, most of them will tell you the reason they're where they are and you're not is because they were willing to fail more than you are. So don't worry about failure. Out of failure comes wisdom, experience. You'll learn from it unless you wallow in it or unless you don't try again. I'll use all of the old typical stories. How many times Edison tried to make a light bulb. He failed a lot. When they asked him about it, he says, all I've done is eliminate ways not to make a light bulb. The things I tried to use just didn't work. I know it will work if I find the right thing. I just haven't found it. A lot of us have eaten KFC. Well, Sanders, when he was retired as a colonel, he went around trying to sell this recipe. He went to over 100 places. Nobody wanted it. He got a lot of no's. I used to be a sales manager, sales trainer, and I used to teach the guys, your job is not to make 20 sales a week. Your job is to go out there and get 100 no's. They're like, what? Yeah. Get excited about getting those no's, because out of 100 no's, you probably get 20 yeses before you get those 100 no's. But we're afraid to get the no's. We're afraid to fail. So if we're afraid enough, remember, thought, emotion, action. You're really afraid to fail. You're very emotionally strong about that. So guess what you're going to do? Take no action. Thought and emotion decide whether or not there's an action or what kind of action there is. So let the failures always be instructional things. Learn from them. I noticed that my son, who plays a lot of video games, probably more than he should. I know a lot of people have issues with video games. Let's not make that an issue here. One of the benefits to that, though, is that to get good at it, you lose a lot. You ever play a video game? I've tried some of the ones. Here's the best one. He's a little kid. He's playing some little game on like a little old DX, whatever it was. And he comes up to me when he got to a level he couldn't do. Figures Daddy can do anything. Daddy, can you help me with this level? Okay. We're already on like level 25. I don't even know what the game is or how it works. Not that I haven't played games, what I'm saying is this particular game and all of its tricks and he's already figured out a lot of. So he hands it to me and I die in about a second and a half. He looks at me, I die again in a second and a half. He says, give me that. I'm like, here, take it. I don't have any idea how to play this game. I told him that when he first handed it to me. I don't know. But Daddy, okay. I told you I'm going to die in like 3 seconds. I remember the first time that happened to me, I was visiting with some friends, and it was, she left me to go do something, and she left me sitting with her little brother who was playing video game. And then he said he wanted to get something to show me, so he did some little trick to the game to give me like 99 lives. You know how like people learn that kind of thing to get those extra lives? And he left me with 99 lives, and it was like a first-person shooter game. This was like when I was in my early 20s, and so I have 99 lives, and he goes to go get something. He comes back, I got like 4 left, and he looked at me like, what in the world did you do? I said, take this from me. But you know what? Because he does this, that experience has taught him not to be afraid of losing. He realizes that the reason he's really good at some of these things is because he's lost so many times, and each time he learns something. From each try, from each attempt. So I'm not recommending video games in any way. I'm saying is, don't be afraid to lose. Our school systems have turned things into, and our world has turned things into, when people play sports now when they're little kids, nobody loses. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody wins. We don't even keep score. Well, then what's the point? Some people ask me sometimes why I don't do certain things. When we play games at home, I don't always play, especially when the children are little, because I only play to win. Because there's a reason that somebody wins and somebody loses. There's no point in playing a game where somebody wins if you're not playing to try to win. Used to play cards with my friends. We would play a game that was like hearts or spades, bridge, that kind of thing. It's one of those type of card games. And my brothers would play, but they didn't care about winning or losing. They were playing socially, and they would frustrate the life out of me, especially if they were my partner. I'm like, can we try to win, please? So that's why I don't play unless you're okay with me trying to beat you. If the game has a winner and a loser. Well, you know what? In the game of life, you're not playing against anybody. But you can learn from when you seem like you're losing, and you can turn it around and start winning by just gaining the experiential knowledge, the lessons from the failures. Because if you failed a lot, you should have been paying attention to, either one of two things happen. If you failed a lot, either you realize that same thing that you keep doing still doesn't work. Or you've realized that the 4 or 5 ways you've tried don't work, so now you got to try something different. But you see other people doing stuff, and they're figuring it out. Oh, wait a minute. I should get that guidance I was talking about. That may help you avoid those mistakes, because you know what the guidance people are? People that have either made all those mistakes already, or they have studied from people who have made those mistakes already, and they've studied the people that have done it well, and they have the expertise to share with you, so you don't have to learn from your own experience. See, experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be yours. You can learn from somebody else's. And those are the mentors, the life coaches, the people out there. It doesn't even have to be like a job thing where you hire somebody. You may just find a friend that is actually good at something you're not and ask them to teach you and show you how to be good at it. They may know. They didn't get there by accident, probably. They didn't get to the level of success by accident. Can we agree? So they may know something. But the problem is we tend to be intimidated by that because we don't want to have them know how bad we are at this thing, and we'll be embarrassed, and we don't want them to know. Or we'll find out, and then I'll have to do it. And so we don't like to talk to those people. We want to talk to the people just as miserable as we are at that area. And so we have our own little pity parties, and we hang around those people that are just as frustrated and clueless and have no idea what we're doing. And so we sit around whining and complaining to each other. Sort of makes us feel better in a weird way, but it doesn't really help. Okay, so what do we need to know next? Okay, first we're taking on responsibility. So the next thing to do is, okay, it's my responsibility. You now need to know where you're starting. If you're going on a trip, what do you generally put in when you're like GPSing, or if you're doing like the map thing? The GPS is going to calculate based on what? Where you are. If you're going on like a maps, like a Google Maps or something, do people use MapQuest anymore? Or they just use Google Maps. Remember when it used to always be MapQuest? Everybody uses Google Maps now. But the point is, Google Maps is still going to start with what's your destination and where's your starting point. Okay, so the first thing you need to do after taking responsibility is figure out, where are you? And like I've told you, I've done some financial counseling with some of the people, even in, not necessarily in this room, but within MTOI, who they had no idea. They have no idea how ahead or upside down or backwards they are every month. They have no idea what they're spending. I've had that experience, by the way. I'm not saying, remember, I've learned the lessons, made mistakes, and done a lot of things. My wife and I had a discussion about this at one point when we were struggling financially. I said, you got to stop spending so much. She goes, I don't spend a whole lot. I said, yes, you do. No, I don't. Do you know what I did? We spent almost everything with either the bank statement, debit card, or a credit card. And so what did I do? I printed it out and pointed to all the items that were mine and all the items that were hers, because she'd say something like, well, the thing I bought, it was only $5. Yeah, but you bought 30 of them this week. And she had no idea what she was spending. None of us do generally, because we don't track it. And so one of the first things you're going to want to do is figure out where you are. The best way to do that is get a little pad or something that you keep around, put it on, if you have a little note thing in your phone, every time you spend money, write it down. Or go back to your bank statements. You know, how many of you actually use cash? Because a lot of people don't. Okay? You cash users need to write it down. If you're using some sort of plastic like a debit card, pull out the statements and look and break it into categories and see, I didn't realize I went out that often to eat, or that I spent this on this type of thing or that thing. Well, I went to Walmart just to pick up, some orange juice and some eggs. Yeah, but the bill, how come you came back with, was $87? Oh, because you figured some other things that you needed while you were there, or you passed an aisle. Oh, all these movies are on sale for like $3 a piece. I'll buy them. I mean, we just do things. And we're not thinking about it because it's small little pains, okay? But you know what? There's a torture that the legends of some of those like Chinese tortures and these tortures, the torture of 1,000 cuts. Not one cut is going to kill you, but they can nick you and nick you and nick you and nick you till you bleed to death. A lot of you are dying the death of 1,000 cuts. Because you're not doing necessarily buying big things and spending hundreds of dollars at a time, but you got all these little things that are killing you. And you have no idea. When I was a personal trainer, anybody keeping track of all the jobs I had? When I was a personal trainer, one of the first things I did with my clients was I said, look, we're going to do some exercise. Obviously, I'm training you, but we're also going to do some diet stuff. So you know what the first thing I did with them was? I wanted them to write down what they already were eating. I didn't want them to change anything. I said, now don't be embarrassed and eat differently because you know I'm going to see it. I want us to know where we're starting. I want you to go for a whole week, so that if you do one day, it's not typical necessarily. But take a week. You'll eat sort of typically over the span of a week. And write down. Some of you can use this for your diet program because you have no idea what you eat and how much. But write everything that goes in your mouth, what you're drinking, what you're eating, write it down. And how much. Because I may take a client at the time when I was training people and find out, you're eating 15 donuts a week. I'm picking just an odd thing. So then I may encourage them, let's cut it down to 10. And then let's cut it down to 5. Instead of just saying, cut them out. See, we're not going to just radically change everything in what you're doing because you can't handle radical change most of the time. It's too much. It overwhelms the system. But we first have to at least figure out where all the bleeding is so we can stop the bleeding. Financially or health-wise or anything else. Some of you don't realize how often you drink coffee because you just go and get another one, and you might not realize. Or how often you stop someplace to pick up a coffee. And hey, it's only a couple of bucks. But you don't realize what you're spending. And so I want you to track your spending. Okay, we're going to call this like we talk about the mall map model, right? It's the old, you are here, like with the laser, here, I could do the laser thing, right? So let's say can you see that laser at all? Man, that's a small dot. It's green for those of you who can't see it. All right, but you might think you're way up here at the top center of the map, and you go, I'm here, and I'm trying to go over here, all the way over here to the left. But really, what if you're actually down here, and you're trying to go to the left? What if you're all the way over here? You got to know where you're starting. Because when you look at the mall map, you go to the what? You are here. And then you say, okay, now I know I want to go over to this store, so let me find it on the map and see where I am and figure out how to get there. Isn't that what we use the map for at the mall? But what if the mall map was just sort of random? They just slapped a you are here wherever they want. Just randomly just walked up and went, boop, just put a you are here anywhere. That isn't going to work very well, is it, for you? So you need to get the you are here figured out. Where are you financially? Are you upside down, meaning that you owe more at the end of the month than you get in? Well, then you need to know how much. Okay, I worked with a family the other day, and they were upside down almost $1,000 a month and had no idea. Oh, they knew they were in trouble. That they had an idea. They just didn't know how big. They needed to do some radical changes. And so sometimes it is bad enough that you're going to have to make a big change quick because it's that bad. But you need to know how bad it is. You got to know where you are. Then, of course, after you figure out where you are, you're going to have to figure out, is it where you want to be? Now, you wouldn't be doing this exercise if it was. So if it's not where you want to be, you're going to have to figure out, well, how'd you end up here then? If you didn't want to be here, how'd you end up here? What were you doing? Or what were you thinking? What were your emotions that led to actions to what you were doing that got you here? Because where you are is based on how you thought in the past. Because your thinking is going to lead to results in the future. I'm not talking New Age here. I'm saying your thinking is going to, when emotions attach to it, lead to actions that lead to habits, lead to a destiny, a place. So that journey starts with thoughts. So you are right now the result of what you were thinking 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago. Those thoughts and those actions and everything else led you to this destiny right now. That's not your final destiny. That's like being on a flight. They always say things like, if this is your final destination, blah, 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 and if it's not, then we wish you well on the rest of your journey, right? So it doesn't have to be that you stopped here and that's it. But you are here as a result of those patterns. Okay? So if you're here, now you're going to have to get comfortable with the idea of have you even chosen to be here? Is this where you want to be? Well, you don't think you chose to, but the choices you made were how you chose to be here. You just didn't understand that. When you chose to spend or not work certain jobs or not take certain paths career-wise or whatever, you did make choices. And you can go back and look at them, not so you can beat yourself up, but you can learn. You want to be able to learn from those choices. Okay? So as you learn from the choices, you can make better decisions. All right. So getting from where you are to where you want to be. So first of all, you need a map. You need a map. And who's going to help you to make that map? Back to the guidance. You're motivated, get guidance. Have the person say, go to the person, hey, by the way, I'm here. Let's say we're right now, where are we? Black Mountain, North Carolina. Okay, so let's say from here you want to go to New York City, and you don't know how to get there. You may go ask somebody to help you have a map to show you how to get there. And then you can go lay that all out. Okay, well, that's more of an obvious one. What if you lived out in California, but on your way you wanted to stop at some place historical, like maybe you wanted to go to see the Mount Rushmore. And you might want to first figure out if it's even on the way. I mean, just because it's between here and California, maybe you don't want to go that far north into the Dakotas. Maybe you don't even know what's in the Dakotas. Maybe you don't even know where it is. Okay, but I'm just saying is you need a map. And so you have to identify a goal of where you want to end up. You got to choose your destiny. Use the system upside down. Choose your destiny. What habits would you have to get to that destiny? What actions develop the habits? What emotions and thoughts do you need to develop the actions? Reverse engineer the whole thing. Where do you want to end up? Pick that first. Well, first figure out that you don't want to be where you are. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to be somewhere else. Well, where? Well, pick it. How do you pick it? Figure out what will make you satisfied. What will make you satisfied? What would you be comfortable with? Not tolerate, but comfortable with. What would make you feel abundant? Because some of you can feel abundant at a fairly low level. You don't need a whole lot. I know people that they're happy with not a whole lot. So maybe it'd be really easy to get you there as long as you weren't falling backwards. And you'd be very comfortable and happy with just what little bit you have and just enough that you're not stressed paying your bills and, So this doesn't have to be that I want all of you to have giant mansions and beautiful, expensive cars and all this stuff. I want you to be stress-free in your financial life. And only you know what that looks like. Okay? Only you know what that looks like. So you need a map, and then you need to go ahead and, you ready for this? You're going to have to follow the map. In other words, if you know where you want to go, you're here in Tennessee and you want to go to California. Okay, that's not going to happen if you stay in your living room or if you stay in this building. You're going to have to actually get in a vehicle of some sort and travel to California. Okay, now California is really far from Tennessee or actually we're in North Carolina. Same thing, further actually, right? So you could also decide to walk. Will walking get you there? Eventually. You could ride a bike. You could take a bus. You could drive a car. You could fly in a plane. There's lots of different ways to get there from here, different vehicles. And so that's career paths and financial choices. Some of you may want to make more radical choices than others to do this more quickly. Because what's the difference in those vehicles? How fast you get there, right? Walking, obviously, the slowest choice. An airplane, the fastest choice. So you can get there using different vehicles. So some of you may want to work very hard on fixing your income, but also work incredibly hard on fixing your outgo. That's much faster than just fixing one. If you fix just one, it will make a difference. You can try to make your outgo fit under your income. You may live a fairly austere life at that point, but you may be okay with that once you're aware of how you are doing. You may need to just ramp it up a little bit just to make it where you're happy. The point is, how fast do you want to make that happen? If you work on both, it works really fast. Working on one is a lot slower. Just a matter of what vehicle you want to use. Okay? You need mentors to help you with that. Okay, you must also realize that there are no shortcuts. Okay? To get to California, you must travel a distance from North Carolina to California. You can't just go one state over and say, I'm here now. Okay, let's just say I'm going to pick a number. Let's say it's 1,500 miles. I have no idea what it is. All right? You must somehow cover that 1,500 miles. Anybody know how far it is from here to California or so? A lot more than that. Pick a number. 2,500. Okay, I don't care what the number is. If it's 2,500 miles, you have to cover that 2,500 miles. Now, you can choose to make it longer. You can't make it shorter. You can zigzag a whole lot or go in a straight line, but you got to cover that distance. There are no shortcuts. The straight line is still the straight line, the shortest distance between 2 points. There's no shortcuts beyond that. So you do what you can to go as straight as you want, or if you don't mind and sightsee along the way and not be in a big rush, fine. Zigzag around, but you still get there, but just keep going in that general direction. That's up to you. But I want you to know, because a lot of you want to have the pill that takes all the weight off, or the instant thing that puts all the money in, or you're going to be the next Bitcoin millionaire, or you're going to be the next, I don't know, whatever it is. You're going to win the lottery or some other thing that's going to instantly fix the problem. Stop looking for the instant fixes. Fix your focus and attitude and understanding and all the things you do, you'll fix the problem, whether any miracle happens or not. Random acts of things like a lottery, by the way, you'd have to play to win. Most of you say, one day I'll win the lottery, you don't even play it. Now, that's not an encouragement to play it, but why would you even talk about it if you're not even going to do it? I wouldn't understand. That's what people do that. Oh, I'm going to start my own business and be a millionaire. And you haven't even thought about what it takes to start a business. You don't have a business in mind. You don't know what you're doing. You need a plan. Okay? I often use this example about how I got this entrepreneurial multi-level marketing magazine in the mail one time. I don't know how it got it. It was junk mail. Okay? This is like 30 years ago. But in the junk mail, when I grabbed it, I was going to throw it out. The headline on the paper caught my attention. One of the articles on the front cover said, "The number one reason why you are not a millionaire." Oh, you think you know, do you? Let me see. So I looked at the article. Do you know what it was? And I agree 100%. The number one reason why most people are not millionaires is because they never chose it as a destiny. They never decided that's where they wanted to be. Because if they did, they would say, okay, I'm here. I want to be here, which is millionaire. Then I'd have to come up with a plan to go from here to there and work the plan, blah, 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 blah. If you wanted to be a millionaire, there's nothing stopping you except putting in the effort to be there if you understood that's what you wanted to do. If you were driven enough, right? If you're motivated enough, if the want is there big enough, you'll figure it out. There's nothing in this country to stop you from getting there. We got millionaires coming all the time. You don't need to be a millionaire, though, to be happy. To be, or I should say, satisfied with your life financially. But I thought it was interesting that, of course, you're not going to become one by accident. Not generally. Okay? And so, where you end up, generally, is that you choose to go there. You have to choose to go there. But you know what? I can choose to go to California, get on the road, and start heading north. I'm not going to probably get there very quickly. Not all the way out here on the East Coast. I'm trying to go to the West Coast. I could head south, probably not going to work real good, or I could head east, not going to work that good. I'm going to have to somehow go west. But even if I go west, if I go a little bit too south, a little bit too north, I'm still going to miss. How much do you want to be clear about where you want to go? So you got to know where you want to go. Let me see what else I put in here real quick. Can we just get my phone off the desk? It's plugged in. Yeah, just unplug it out of the bottom and bring it over. Okay, so I want to talk about this needs-wants disconnect. This is the biggest problem you guys are probably having. All right? Okay, it's got plenty of time. I heard a really powerful thing, very profound, at a motivational business, whatever thing I was at, many years ago. And the person said that most people don't have what they want because they're very busy going around getting what they want now. Did you follow that? In other words, you don't have what you really want because you're too busy getting what you want now to have enough patience to go ahead and delay your gratification to get what you really want. Because what you have now is depleting all of the funds for what you really want. Well, we've been wanting to buy a house now for 10 years, but we just can't seem to get the money together. Well, but you managed to buy the big screen TV and the this and the this and this and this and this, that if you had put it aside, you might be able to buy a house. Do you understand what I'm saying? We are so distracted by what we want now. We're a terrible, terrible, terrible generation, and it's been that way for a while, with this idea of delayed gratification. That's where the credit card stuff came from, right? The plastic that we would have, and we pull that plastic out because, God forbid, we should actually save up and buy the thing because we can afford it. I mean, why would you ever want to do that? Now, I can understand. I know there's people out there that don't, kind of encourage this, but I can understand on the maybe one or two things in life that are so expensive that's just almost impossible for most people. So yes, if you want to take out a loan to buy a house or a car, that might be about it. Or a business, which is going to hopefully make you some money. But I wouldn't be doing that for furniture or for other things that we just get indebted to all the time because we can't wait to save up and buy it. Appliances or whatever. You should have an emergency fund. What's an emergency fund? Anybody ever heard of Murphy's Law? What's Murphy's Law? Whatever can go wrong will. Okay, Murphy tends to live when you have right in your house when you don't have any money. Okay, so you think it might rain, so you bring your umbrella, guess what? So it doesn't rain. But if you didn't bring it, you're going to get soaked, all right? So Murphy's Law. So one of the ways to keep Murphy in check is to have an emergency fund. $1,000 would do it. Somebody thinking, if I ever had $1,000, I'd be like, oh man, $1,000 that I didn't have spent already? But that should be one of your goals. Because $1,000 can cover almost anything that can come up without you need to pull out the credit card. Refrigerator broke, got $1,000. Car had a major overhaul, got $1,000. Not if they both happen at the same time, probably. But it could be, I'm just saying is you have to have these things as part of what your plan is. So you're busy getting what you need or want now, and that's preventing you from getting where you want to go because you haven't really planned this thing out very well. So this needs wants disconnect. Let's talk about that for a little bit. We have what's called, or what I call, or it's out there officially, the psychologists and whoever define things, what we call our needs. There's some basic human needs. Okay, we need to eat, right? We need to drink. We need water and stuff. We need sleep. We need shelter. For the elements, we need clothing. I'm not even just talking about from the embarrassment factor, just for the elements, you need clothing. Look, it was real windy out there yesterday and cold. If you didn't have something, you could get windburned. You can get all kinds of other problems from that, especially if it was in the morning when it was like 35 degrees, 40 degrees out there. It was cold. Okay? This morning it was cold, really cold. So someone exposed to the elements is going to have a problem. So there's only so many needs. We don't need a lot of stuff. You don't need a big screen TV. You don't need to go to Starbucks. You don't need, any particular type of food, provided it's, food that will sustain you. But it doesn't have to be a certain brand or a certain this or whatever. You don't need to ever go to a restaurant. You don't ever need to go to a movie theater. You don't ever need, there's things you don't need. But they're nice to have. We want them. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with wanting stuff. We're told that at the feasts, you're to take the second tithe and spend it on whatever your heart desires. Abba knows you want things. That's okay. Here's the problem. For most of us, we have a real hard time defining what's a want and what's a need. Husbands and wives fight about this terribly. Well, but I need a new washing machine. No, you want a new washing machine. This one still works. Now, if it doesn't work, you need one because you can't get the thing done without one. I understand that. But wants and needs have to be clear because this is why. A need must be met. If you need something, you will do anything for that need. Now, by the way, I'm encouraging you to need to get out of debt and get your life right financially. You'll start working a lot harder at it because you'll need it. You can use this to manipulate yourself. Stop letting everybody else and everything else manipulate you. Manipulate yourself. Motivate, drive yourself is what I'm talking about. Get leverage on yourself. need to fix this thing. If I was to go over to you and take my hand, okay, and cover your mouth and your nose, or let's say more goofing, we're hanging out and and we're in a living room and there's a couch with pillows and I take the couch pillow and I walk over and put it over your face and we're just kind of, rough, just goofing off. And you might think it's funny at first, but what if you start having a problem breathing because I'm not pulling it away? Do you think you might try to scratch me, kick me, anything, right? At some point, that's not going to matter. You're going to do anything because you need to breathe. Can you need to fix your problems and fix all these other issues that bad? If you could do that, there's the old story about the one who went to the wise person about whatever it was that he was wanting to do. They use a story like, wanting to learn Torah. I want you to teach me Torah. And he says, but I study and I'm not getting it. I do this and I'm not getting it. So he takes him out into the stream. And he dunks him under the water and holds him down. And so the student thinks this is just a lesson. He's just hanging out there. But eventually he realizes he's not coming up. And he starts kicking and everything else. And finally, when he gets pulled up, teacher simply says, when you want it as bad as you just wanted to get out of that right now, you'll have it. You'll figure it out. Do you want it that bad, though? Remember, motivation, guidance, doing something. You want the motivation or you're not going to do anything. You want the guidance so that you're not just doing anything, but you're doing something and the right thing. And then you got to do something. Motivation, add the guidance, and then take action. And then repeat over and over and over again. And so this needs-wants disconnect is really destroying most of your lives because you think you need stuff you want. A lot of that's also really destroying marriages because there are things you guys are fighting over, not just finances, because one wants it, the other doesn't, but the one who wants it thinks it's a need. And I'm not going to be happy till I get it because I need it. Well, maybe not. Maybe you don't need it. By the way, the other one, when they realize that person feels that strongly about it, especially if you don't, why wouldn't you give it to them anyway unless it's going to be bad? See, my wife and I have an agreement. I don't put my foot down and say no unless I think it's going to cause a problem, harm in some way, financial, health, something, whatever, spiritual, in the family. I don't need to be in charge of everything every moment. So when she asks, which she should, I almost always say yes. What do you think if we do this? Is it okay if I do that? Can I buy this? Can I buy that? Whatever. But it's my job as the gatekeeper to know, is this going to derail anything we're doing? So sometimes I do tell her, yes, but not today. Because today's not good for that. We're saving for this right now. Okay, MTOI has purchased the house that I live in. It was owned by someone else. I was renting it. It does not fit my family and MTOI. MTOI runs out of the first floor, we run out of the second floor. It's not big enough for them, it's not big enough for me. I want to move out. I have enough money to do it. I absolutely have no problem affording to move out. Why haven't we moved out? Because I told my wife, and also certain big expenses, we have some appliances that would be good if we replaced them. I said I'd rather not spend any money until we figure out the moving thing because I'd like us to buy a property first and build on that property. Where MTOI and the feast site and everything else, and I want to live right there. So we are now suffering on some levels. We are certainly not satisfied. We are uncomfortable. If you've been to my house when this has been going on, there have been boxes. And, okay, you see this whole middle section here between the chairs? That whole section would have been boxes right in my front foyer going in my house. You open the front door, and it was that, right in the front door. Everything you see in the marketplace, the boxes of T-shirts, the boxes of books, those things were all stacked there because there was no more room to put it in the first floor part. Then my wife moved a whole bunch of them into storage, and when she came back, UPS showed up between. Yeah. And so now there was and she said, I just emptied all this. And I was like, and then the truck came. That's exactly what happened. It was the funniest thing, because I was laughing putting the boxes in there going, she's not going to be happy. Because we just ordered the T-shirts that showed up, and I got 8 boxes of big giant boxes of T-shirts. Just went right in the front, right in the hallway going into the front of that. Just as you walk in the house, bang, you get knocking the boxes. But we are delaying things. And so we've had this, sometimes she's come to me and say, I'm suffering with this stuff. And I say, I get it, but I need you to be patient because we have a plan. There is a goal. We have something we're trying to do. And I could fix that thing she wants now, but it will take away from what we need to do the thing we're really saving to do. Do you see how that plays? We're trying to make sure to buy this house. I could buy a whole bunch of new stuff that we need, but that would affect the money we need to buy the house. And then we could have that money to buy the new stuff to go in the house that we need to buy. Or build the house, or whatever we end up doing. So maybe you're having this desire for something that's fairly expensive, but you're buying all this other stuff that's making it so you'll never have enough money to buy the more expensive thing. Because you have a want that you turn into a need, so you buy it now because you need it. Well, how come you bought all this stuff? Well, I needed this and I needed that. Stop using that word unless it's a need. We have a disconnect, I told you, between wanting and needing. This is huge. Does everybody agree with me? Do you understand how this could really be a big problem? Yes. Okay? If you can't get that part wrestled down, you'll never fix this problem. It's not just only the casual things you do because you're not even thinking about it. It's the things you do because you are thinking about it because you're emotionally, I need it, I need it, I need it. That's what the kids feel like. I need a toy. No, you don't. Yes, I do. You get it for them. They play with it 5 minutes and they go somewhere else. There it is on the floor. You go, oh my goodness. I just bought that thing, right, moms? And there it is on the floor, and the kid's somewhere else, and they don't care anymore. Apparently, it wasn't a need. It was just a really big emotional want. I want it, I want it, I want it now. Okay, unless you're 3, I don't want to hear that out of you anymore. Okay? They can't help themselves. But you can. Because they have parents that are supposed to say, I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you're not getting that right now. Because you don't need that. I had to tell a few people yesterday, that's okay. You've had 15 marshmallows. You don't need another one. Because somebody came and asked me to open another bag. And I said, how many have you had? Have you had at least 4 or 5? No, more. I said, okay, you've had enough. Okay? But somebody should be there to say, that's okay. That's probably enough for you right now. All right? But we don't like to hear no because our emotions are so driven. The thought, when having a lot of emotion, is a very strong locomotive that's hard to step in front of and stop. And that could work for you. Okay, if you put the right thoughts with the right powerful emotions, you'll get some stuff done. Okay? Now some of you are going to go home and say, see that, sweetheart, I told you, if you would just get motivated, then this thing that you've been saying you're going to do in the house would finally get done. That's true, by the way. Both that somebody in this room is going to do that, and also that if they actually put the motivation behind it, it would actually get done. Everything you're really motivated about, doesn't it get done? If you're motivated about it, how many of you remember as children or have children that are hard to wake up in the morning? Or were hard to wake up in the morning? How hard was it to get them up, though, the day you're leaving to go to Disney? They were in the car before you woke up yourself. Come on, Dad, let's go. What do you mean, let's go? Who are you? And what are you doing out of bed? I got to usually drag you out by your heels. Oh, but we're going on vacation. I mean, they're already in the car. They were motivated. Okay? So things get done when they're motivated. Some of us have to use a boot to motivate. By the way, the person guiding you, depending on what relationship you have with them, you may give them license to take out the boot. I've got one over here I've had to do that with. It's been successful. Okay? All right? And that's just sometimes necessary, but that's part of the relationship. Okay? And he's having a tremendous good success in moving forward, but there was a moment when I said to him, if you don't get up and do this thing that you need to do, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to give you this boot. Okay? And the reason it worked is because he knew I wasn't kidding. But that's only because he has given me license to do that. Do you understand? You need to find someone who you can give license to say, we're going to do this, then let's do it. If we're not going to do it, then you're going to waste everybody's time. Okay? There has to be an agreement that we're going to do this. Let's just do it, Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Okay. Let me just see what else I have on my list here to make sure that I'm on track. Oh, we're doing really good. Okay, so So we're talking about, okay, we picked a place to go. We've identified the problem. Okay, we identified the issue. Solution we identified. Okay, the solution may be a combination of stop spending as much, start making more. Okay, something like that. And then you make a plan to fix both of those. Then you stick to your plan, you work your plan, and things start to work out. You get guidance along the way. Hopefully you stay very motivated in what you're doing. All right, let's talk about something as part of this along the way. Part of finance also is that some of you have this, we are Deuteronomy 8:2. What's the first thing? Humbling. Some of you have incredible pride problems, which is where you're not ready to humble yourself and go to someone and admit you're screwing this whole thing up and you don't know what you're doing. That you've totally wrecked your finances and you need help. You got to let that go. You're never going to move forward until you admit that you have a problem. It's like Alcoholics Anonymous. What do they make them do? First, stand up and admit they got a problem. And if you can't humble yourself enough to stand up and admit, I'm an alcoholic, I've got a problem, well, you got to stand up and say, I have no idea what I'm doing with my finances. Because what I've been doing so far has only made it a terrible mess. Don't be afraid to admit that. It's more embarrassing to have the problem and just keep going and going and going than to try and make an effort to fix it. Because then we get to the next step that this is not about fixing this, but while this is going on, some of you may feel you need benevolence. So I want to talk about benevolence. There's a very legitimate need for benevolence in certain situations. But I want to make sure this is clear to everyone because, we're recording this so we can kind of broadcast this out. Benevolence should be the last option after you have done everything. If you still have cable TV, you're not asking for benevolence. If you still have a cell phone, unless you need it for work, there's a need, you're not asking for benevolence. If you're still going to Starbucks, do you understand? Poor people that need benevolence don't eat out. Okay? Poor people that need benevolence don't do a lot of things that you're doing. And all you're doing is taking that money away from the ministry who could be using it for people that actually need it. My first experience with this was I was brought into a congregation as the Torah portion teacher. I wasn't in charge of the congregation. But I was brought into, and so the leader of the congregation who was kind of thinking about grooming me to take over because he thought he was moving to the West Coast from here out to Denver from where he was in Knoxville, wanted to kind of see how I react to certain things. So somebody had asked for benevolence. So I said, well, what's the situation? Well, somehow in getting the information, the person was having trouble paying their rent, needed some help paying it, but turned out they were smoking 3 packs a day. So if I give benevolence, really what I'm doing is paying for the cigarettes. Oh, but, I'm not going to quit smoking. Well, why do you want money from me? Why should you take Yahweh's money if you haven't done everything you need to do? I'm not using it to buy an airplane or a Cadillac or a limo or something. I want it to give to somebody who's had something terrible happen and needs benevolence. Now, if you cut out the cigarettes and after cigarettes, it's still short by whatever, I'll help you take care of that. That's part of benevolence. But you have to first do your part. You shouldn't just look for a handout so that it enables you to maintain your lifestyle while you're still messing the whole deal up. Does that make sense? Now, we've let a lot of you get away with some of this because some of you come here to the feast on benevolence because we've helped you and you have not yet spoken to us about just how foolish you're spending your money. But you've just been put on notice. You need to fix that stuff. Because some of you needed the benevolence and some of you didn't. You did, but you did because you made mistakes and are not handling your money well. So now we're having a class to start talking about that so we can start the process. I'm not going to fix everything in today's class. You're going to still need to get motivated and seek guidance. That's not going to be a one-size-fits-all from the microphone from here. We're going to have to sit down, you and me or you and whoever you pick, and go through your unique little situation. And you need to do the background work, which is to what? What did we say we had to do first? Come on. What was your first job? After taking responsibility, what do you actually have to do? Figure out where you are, what you're spending, what your income is. You have to first make sure, before you waste the time of a counselor, you should know how much you're spending and how much you make every month and what the actual stat numbers are. At least bring that to the table. That's the part I can give you today for all of you. Know where you're starting. Know where you're starting. That's really critical. So with the benevolence thing, I don't want you to think the ministry doesn't want to help. We help for thousands and thousands of dollars a year. Every feast, we put up either parts of the meals or parts of the housing or all over thousands of dollars. That's not bragging about what we do. I just want you to know the money we have benevolence. And some of you actually give money for benevolence, and that money gets used for benevolence. So that's not a problem. But you should expect that we would at least do something to vet the person who wants the benevolence. Because we don't want to be doing this, enabling or entitling. We don't want to be codependent with your problem. And don't you be with other people with their problem. Because some of you are codependent with your children. And they are not on their feet financially, and you have allowed them to do that. You've enabled that problem. If you would just go ahead and cut that umbilical cord, you'd be surprised they'll figure out a way. But you're enabling them because you're rescuing them. Stop rescuing them. Let them learn how to fly. Throw them out of the nest and let them move their wings around a little bit and see if they can fly a little bit. That doesn't mean you're going to let them drown or crash to the ground. You're still a safety net, but some of you have the bird coming out of the nest and you're right here. We can move that net down a little bit. It's okay. Give them some room to mess around and figure things out and start falling and thinking they're falling, but then figure it out. The safety net doesn't have to be 3 inches from their body. We call that almost a hammock. And they're just going to lay in it and do nothing. We don't want a hammock. We want a safety net. I've never said that before. I like it. Is that ringing true for anybody? Okay. Because we don't want to entitle or enable. And you shouldn't want that either. You should want to do this and be on, you need to take responsibility for yourself. Now, you do look to Yahweh for creating opportunities while you're working it out. But generally, he wants you to take steps first, and then he helps you along the path. He doesn't just walk over, scoop you up, and just carry you over. I remember my daughter was walking on one of those on-the-ground balance beams at 1.5, 2 years old. When she first started walking, it's like the park. The thing's not up in the air, it's right on the ground. But it's only a couple inches wide, right? And she wants to walk across it. And so I wasn't going to carry her across it. She didn't want that anyway. I mean, she wanted to walk across the thing. But what did I do? I said, you go ahead, I'll hold your hand. But she still had to put each foot one in front of the other. And then later on, I got to stand near her. And I said, I'll stand near you, but go ahead, I don't need to hold your hand. That's how the Father works with us. But you're going to have to get on the beam and start walking. But realize that let me ask you a question. Would you jump out of an airplane without a parachute? No? Why not? What if I told you it was on the ground? So you didn't have enough information for that joke. Okay? The balance beam that you're asked to walk on is on the ground. You're afraid like you're crossing between 2 giant skyscrapers on a tightrope. No, there's those around you that will keep you from falling into oblivion, so to speak. There's ministry, friends, family, etc. Him, the Creator, will all help you. Get on the path and start moving. You have a built-in safety system. But do what you can and what you know you need to do. And if you don't know what you need to do or what you can, get guidance. Seek guidance. All right, does that make sense? All right. Now, see, there's a couple more things I say that I want to open up the mic. Real quickly, let me just see. Okay, so I'll add two more things, I think, and that's it. Okay, before we go into this. So the two more things are this. One is when you're making budgets or when you're trying to figure things out, I want you to figure out what you're spending. I want you to break it out into categories, but put everything, because people leave stuff out. I've had people say to me things like, well, this category is for this, this, and this. And I said, well, where's your category that covers the miscellaneous stuff like toothpaste, toilet paper, paper towels, napkins, laundry detergent, hand soap, whatever. And then they'll fill that in. They'll put something ridiculous like $25 a month. Really? Where do you shop? Okay? Know what you're really spending. Don't make a budget based on, the items, and so you put it in there, but you have no idea what you really spend. Go figure out what you spend for the month. Pick any month that you've kept track of. Categorize what you actually spent into categories. Entertainment, food, rent, insurance, utilities, whatever it is, okay? Gas, auto insurance, car maintenance, anything you spend. But you don't know what you spend. But you can track it and then you'll know. Because you will, if you make a budget without doing it this way, you'll leave a lot of things out. You won't think of all those things. There's probably a bunch of you have no idea what you spend on gas, but you're meticulous about making sure you get the right price. My wife actually used to drive me crazy about this until I pointed out that if I save 2 cents a gallon, I'll have saved 32 cents. That's certainly worth driving 15 minutes out of my way. Don't try to save money foolishly. I mean, if you're going to save 47 cents a gallon, maybe that'd be worth it, okay? And then when you go over Tennessee to here, there's some places between here and there where the gas is actually going to jump about 30 cents. Okay, so now we're talking $4 or $5. Okay, I'll save that. Times 15, 16 gallons. But I'm not going to save it by, a nickel a gallon and save, times 16 gallons. What am I saving? 80 cents? That's worth it? I mean, that's a waste of my going out of my way and even stressing about it. Because my wife will ask me, well, how much did you pay for gas? I said, I have no idea. I just paid for it. What? How could you do that? I said, what's the difference? Well, you could have gone here and saved 2 cents. Do the math. I've only got a 15-gallon tank. It wasn't empty. I probably put in 10. So that's 20 cents. So I took a quarter out and gave it to her. I said, here. That make you feel better? It wasn't worth my time to try to save a quarter. Okay? But some of you know exactly what you're paying per gallon and have no idea how much you're paying for gas a month. You don't know what your budget is for gas. Do you? No. But you know what you're paying because that's the big deal. Or you know what because I'll come home and I'll buy, she'll say, well, we need something for the house, whatever it is. And I'll bring something else. She'll, what'd you pay for it? Look at the receipt. I don't know. I'm a buyer, not a shopper. Now, you shop for things where if you can save, it's significant enough to the effort and the time and the stress. Some of you are spending way too much time and stress on things that are not helping and not enough time on the things that really would save you a lot of money. Like to realize you don't need to go out and buy coffee outside the house, 4 times a week. Now we're not saving pennies, we're saving dollars, and big ones. I walked into Starbucks once, and I don't drink coffee, but I went there because somebody was meeting me. They were going to have a little meeting because they have internet there or whatever, so we're going to have a little business meeting. And I looked at the thing and I said, you guys buy this that's what you guys all buy? First of all, I said, what language is that? What's a macalata, what? I don't know what this is, a mocha latte, I don't know. It's like a whole nother language. And these people walk up and they're like speaking that language. I'm like, and the person goes, here, there you go. Does it taste good? I don't know. But the prices for a cup of coffee, it might be okay to buy a coffee mug and make your own coffee. Carry it around with you. You might want to just kick coffee altogether. Wouldn't be a bad deal. Okay? But I'm just saying is, you got to know when you make your budget, don't just go out and make a budget. Do the exercise first and figure out where your money's going. And once you figure that out, and you have a month's worth of it, then now you know what you spend a month. Now the things that you don't spend every month, So you know that happens whenever it is, like say you might pay your auto insurance, quarterly, or you may pay it once a year. You just pay it or every 6 months. Okay, divide that out. So it's budgeted every month. Even though you're only paying it once, but divide, you say you pay, just to pick an easy round number, $600 for 6 months, so it's $100 a month. Boom. Budget that into the budget, $100 a month for the insurance. So every 6 months it's $600. Okay, you're not going to pay it $100 a month, but you should be putting it aside. You should be knowing that that's being prepared for, so you don't all of a sudden show up at the $600 bill going, I didn't put away for that. How am I going to pay this $600 bill? Anybody ever end up with some of those things when they come around and you're not ready for them? That's part of your fixing your finances. You should know when things are coming. It shouldn't surprise you. They come the same time every time. So you should know. You should know which bills come what time of the month. Does it come the first week or the third week or the fourth week or whatever it is? And so that you're prepared for it. All right? So I definitely want you to be thinking about that part of it. And then the last thing I want to talk about is if you really struggle with money, I would use cash if you don't already. Why? Because it hurts more. I carry cash with me. I don't ever use it because I hate spending cash. It hurts more. I have an American Express that I pay every month, though, so I've already trained myself that what I spend, I know I have. I won't use any other card because the other cards allow you to pay them off, and then you have debt. Okay? But if I start to feel like my budget's getting to be a problem, I would immediately switch to cash. One of the ways you could do it's an envelope system. You put the cash for food in one, for rent in another. You have it sort of budgeted out. And when that envelope's empty, you're not buying any more of that item. And now if that envelope gets too empty before the end of the month, you either have to figure out what you're spending or rebudget. Because either you didn't budget properly or you overspent. Can we agree on that? Okay, so those are the two other things I wanted to put in there before we open up the mic. So the bottom line is earn more, spend less, and then we'll be where we need to be. But you now need to go through being motivated, getting guidance, and then identifying the issue, figuring out the solution, coming up with a plan, working the plan, checking in to see how the plan is doing, and making adjustments. That's your program. Are we good? All right. Can we get some guys to come around with the mics? Let me open up the floor. I want to let you guys ask questions. So let's get the mics. Okay, Nate's getting one. Zarek will get the other. Now, I know that didn't fix everything, but hopefully I gave you some tools, some ideas to help you get this thing finally worked out. Now, if we could do a whole weekend seminar, not a weekend, but like a couple of day thing or an all-day thing, yeah, I would have you actually sitting there and budgeting out and writing things down and working through a whole bunch of stuff. Same thing with investing and everything else. But wouldn't it be great if you had enough money coming in and your bills under control where you could actually give your first, second, and third tithe and 10% for your retirement and not have a care because you have enough to pay your bills? How good would that be? There's no reason that can't be. At least the first three part of that has to be, because Yahweh said it has to be. You have to be able to do the tithing. Some of you, and we've talked about this when we get around to the end of Sukkot. At the end of Sukkot, I'm going to tell everybody like I did every year, you know about second tithe. You have 6 months to get ready for Passover. Well, guess what? Right now it's Passover. You got 6 months to be ready for Sukkot. Don't tell me you're not ready for it unless you have a legitimate crisis problem, because you should be able to have enough second tithe in 6 months to pay for the next feast. Unless you're not tithing. Why would you do that to yourself? I'm not even talking about the first one. The second one's for you. Why wouldn't you do that? And then what are you going to do? You're going to tell me, well, I'd like to come, but I'm going to need help, and I don't have enough money and all that stuff. Look, some of you will have legitimate situations. Most of you won't. You could have done it. You didn't budget right. You didn't get your finances right. You didn't get your career thing right. Something's got to be fixed. Okay, remember I told you this tithing system exposes the problem. Selfishness or an income problem. For most of you, I think it's the income problem. I don't think most of you are selfish. You'd like to give. Okay? I know some of you are actually frustrated and feel like, almost guilty that you're not able to do it. Well, good. Let that guilt motivate you to fix the problem. Spend less, earn more. Okay, who wants to start us off with questions? Sam had his hand up in the back.
Okay. Just want to point out something that you actually helped me with a while back, is that realizing that a lot of it for financial issues really may not even be financial problems. It's just emotional problems that keep you from actually being able to start taking account of everything. Right? Like in my case, it was actually caring too much about how my mother was living and not focusing enough on whether or not my money was actually in the right place in the first place.
Amen. Okay, so let's go back to the model, right? The model was motivation, guidance, etc. So when you get to that first one, it's what? Identifying the issue. The issue may be an emotional one. The issue may be how you see money. You know, there are people that don't ever make enough because their whole family life growing up, everybody told them money was evil, money's evil, so you don't want it. Because after all, if I have it, somehow it's evil. No, money is not evil. Okay, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It doesn't say of all evil. There's lots of evil that has nothing to do with money. But it can be the love of it. I don't want you to love money. I want you to have enough to be satisfied and happy in your life without stress. I want you to be stress-free. That's how you have wealth. You can be very wealthy at a low income. Because wealth is not about how much money you have, it's about the quality of life. How satisfied are you? How content are you? How stress-free are you? Does that make sense? Okay, next question. Okay, in the back, Janice has her hand up.
Mine's not really a question as much as it is maybe something that would inspire somebody. About 8 months ago, I realized that every time I closed my bedroom door, I saw what I had to do in school was create a vision board where I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. I took that poster board and I turned it around because I can't get to where I want to be if my finances are all messed up. I was never taught how to budget a checkbook, balance a checkbook. I was never taught anything. I was ignorant. So about 8 months ago, I turned it over. And at the top, I wrote income, how much I make from my paycheck, how much I get that comes from child support. And then underneath, I started putting blocks. What this is, how much it is, what date it's due. And that way then, every time, and I moved it from behind my door. I put it right where I can see it, right where my kids can see it. So they know this is what's budgeted for food. This is what's budgeted for gas in the car. They see how mom's money, the little bit that we get, where it goes. And right up at the top in big bold letters is tithe. First, second, third. Right now there's nothing at third. But I've consolidated my student loans. I've consolidated everything I possibly can in just the last 8 months. We are so squeaky tight, it's not funny. Because on top of that, I also have my business that I have to have in order to be able to create additional income. But having that right there where everybody in the house can see it is helping my kids help me stay accountable for every penny that comes in and that goes out.
Amen. Okay, so let me just say something to Janice. You didn't get rid of your vision board. You changed it. It's still a vision board. The reason you changed it is because the vision board wasn't being used right. Let me explain what a vision board is. Okay, and these are all sort of motivational speaker techniques, and people have used these things very successfully. So a vision board would be to have some sort of like a big board that you can put on it the things that you want. In other words, if life was the way you would really want it to be, the house that you want would be on there, the car you want would be on there, whatever it is, the type of shape you would be in would be on there, all the different areas of your life would be on there in some means. The problem with the vision board is it wasn't motivating you.
There was nothing on it.
I'm just saying, but let's say there was. Okay, some people can put all these nice pictures on there, but if they're not actually motivating you, the point is you can go ahead and do this. If you really have something you really want really badly, put it on, take pictures of it and put it where you can see it everywhere to motivate you. And you can do this in two ways. Some of you want to lose weight. Good. Take a real good, ugly picture of your fat body, and I'm talking about mine too, and stick it where you can see it all the time, not where public would see it, but you. And every time you look at it, go, I better look at that before I go ahead and eat another piece of cake, or another junkie this, or another junkie that. Whatever it is, find a way to keep it in front of your eyes to stop you from doing what you shouldn't do or motivate you to do what you should. That's the point of a vision board, is to motivate you. Okay? And by the way, take these things, write them down, stick it on the mirror in the bathroom where you can read some things or whatever to remind you, okay, this is what I want to make sure I'm aware of today. This is my motivation. This is what I'm focused on. Think about this. The Olympics just came by. So I love using the Olympics for this particular sort of point. And I didn't actually watch one event this year, which is not a big deal. I mean, nobody has to watch the Olympics. Some people think it's all pagan and, it's evil if you watch it. Forget all that stuff. It's a bunch of athletes trying to see who's the best. They're not worshiping pagan gods while they're doing it. The opening ceremony might have some problems, okay? But the rest of it is people just trying to see who's the best, okay? I get that. But I would love you to watch, though, to see when they tell the stories about how these people gave up everything in their life to laser focus so they could get that gold medal. If you could singular focus yourself enough on a goal, you'll get there. You'll sacrifice everything else to get there. How bad do you want your financial freedom and to be stress-free financially? Do you want it as bad as that person wanted a gold medal? Where they worked out however many times a day and gave up friends and family and social life and everything else just to have that little stupid thing on a string? Now, you don't have to go that extreme, but how bad do you want it? The vision board is kind of that kind of thing. If you want something bad enough, put it in front of your face so that you don't forget it. Everything you do is in that direction. I know some of you are good about putting Torah phrases all around your house. That's great. Do the same thing with the other things in your life you want to get right. Remember, there wasn't just one area of life called spiritual. There was also physical and mental, emotional, social, financial, etc. So put those things out there to motivate you in those areas. That would be very powerful. So she did have a vision board. She put on it, this is our budget, this is what we're doing so that we can get these things right. And so then she now had a vision for where they were going. You know, we had a men's program that we worked for 24 weeks. We went through it, or 20-something weeks through it. And one of the things I had the men do was create a vision for themselves and for their families. Where are you going with these people? What's the destination? Without vision, the people are let loose. Just anything goes. Okay, it says without vision, the people perish. They're let loose. That's really, the idea is more like let loose. They just kind of go and do whatever they want to do. Okay? Okay, I can take a gun or a bow with an arrow, something that you can shoot, and I can take it and shoot it. But if I don't actually aim at the target, I'm probably not going to hit it. It's going to go and land somewhere. And that's without vision. So if my eyes are closed and I'm just kind of spin around and I'm in a room somewhere and I have no idea where I'm stopping, and let's say the target was like over there, and then I could just go ahead and pull out the bow and pull the arrow back and shoot, but my eyes are closed, so there's no vision. So what is vision? Seeing the target. Okay? That's what the vision board did. It helped make sure you were aware of what you're trying to do. That's good. Good stuff. All right, who's next? You will be calling me. Good. I'm going to regret that I've really pushed you guys to call me. In the words of Tevye, I regret it already. You won't regret this, Rev Tevye. I regret it already. Okay, where are you? Nate, go ahead. What?
About when our first Sukkot here, very unexpected that we would be coming here. We didn't have a second tithe. Actually, we did actually have a second tithe, but we had used it for where we were. We had not intended coming this way. We needed help. Thanks to Rabbi, we got some benevolence to help get through that first Sukkot. And then it took us a little while to get caught up for the second Sukkot. But we paid off that one, and he's helped us out financially tremendously up to this point and continues to be an encouragement for us.
Now, by the way, your next installment is due soon, and Vinny's going to come see you. Hey, we'll take care of that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Tony Tanakh. So for me, I grew up a latchkey kid, if anybody knows what that is. My mom worked like 3 jobs, and we still had no money. Never taught finances. I actually was in debt before I even got into the service. Didn't know about it till I tried to get a loan. So I had no training. And then I can show you on my finances through our journey when I started to really make a commitment to serve Yahweh. I had a zero balance one year, $0 made. I don't know how we survived. We were married. And then I was a youth pastor, made like $200 a week. And we survived. I don't know how we did it. And now I'm making more money. I'm still as much in a hole as I was when I was making that little bit. And it almost seemed like we have more money then than I do now as a nurse. So I have real problem with finances. A lot of that is selfishness on my part because when I was a kid and when I was growing up, I never had any money, so it was really hard for me to let it go. And definitely didn't want to just give it to anybody, especially in a spiritual sense. And as much as I was against leadership when I came here, I was just as bad about tithing when I came here. Because I never heard a teacher teach it correctly. They always wanted to say it's important for you to give tithe, but never said, we can't really do it today, but it is important for us to show Abba that we look to him and give him the first fruits of everything that we have, regardless of whether the temple is up or not, which that is taught correctly. So now I have a teacher who I can trust. He's teaching it the way now it's on me to go, that's correct. I'm supposed to be tithing. He's poured into, MTOI has poured into our lives so much that the tithe, thank you, Abba. Thank you for giving me money that I can tithe with. So now we tithe our second tithe. And we're trying to get to a place to where our needs we're not look like our house. Our house is not immaculate. It's not. But Abba provided for us to pay it off since coming to MTOI. Like when Trump signed into office, I got a picture of me signing my papers for my house. And if you want the details of that, I'll be more than happy to give you that later. But we're trying to get to a place where we are debt-free because I want to be free to be used in any way that he says, you go, Nate. I got time. I got whatever he needs. Not only that, but I want to be able to give that 30%. Now, we're not at a place yet to where we're comfortable to be able to do that and feel like we're able to do that and still live and be providing for the family and not feeling like we're stressing and tight on it. So we're trying to get where we're debt-free so that by that third year, we're putting in our benevolence and we're in probably even give more. That would be our heart to do that. So we're so close to debt-free, but I'm very encouraged because he's always trying to get your finances straight. Get your finances straight. And I've failed in my budget and fall down and get up because it's something that I really struggle with. So I really want to encourage you the blessings of the tithe, the first tithe and the second tithe. Now this Sukkot, we actually have some money that we can go home on and not feel like, oh man, I got to wait till my next paycheck comes in and all this other stuff. So I know it's difficult for a lot of us with the tithe, but if we owe debt, we're slaves. I'm a slave right now. I have to, if I'm not in work, man, they're going to come, well, they can't take, well, I suppose they could try to take my house if I can't pay my taxes on it. But I do have a car yet. Yeah, I still have a car that they could come and take. But if we could get out of debt, just imagine all of us working together, none of us in debt. Imagine how the world would be changed with us being able to go and come as he directs, as our Father directs us. The communities that are established. I'm coming over to your house to help you build your house and take care of your windows instead of paying somebody else to do it or going to debt or whatever. Just think about the light that would be in the world of a people who are not in slavery any longer.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. He was just as excited about the tithing thing as the leadership thing. Yeah, that was... This thing keeps sliding. Got to move it over. There we go. All right, who's next? All right, in the back there, Robert.
Yeah, Yanni wants to know, she's on disability and she gives a gift offering through the homepage. Can she keep that money and pay a plane ticket to come to a feast?
Okay, so first of all, if you're on disability, you're on benevolence, essentially, from the government where you live. So that's not income. That's not what we would call tithable anyway. So I would say yes. As a matter of fact, because Yanni is in a situation where she doesn't have the ability to do that, but some of you I know would love to have her to come. I think the ladies were going to think about putting something out on Marco Polo. I mean, it'd be great if you guys wanted to chip in something to help her come to Sukkot. Yeah. Okay, and we could put a little fund together to help her. She's in Denmark, and listen, this lady, whatever hour it is, where she is, she shows up. I mean, our Bible studies start like after midnight for her. Okay? 1, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, she's done with our Bible, but she's there every week. And you ladies on the Marco Polo, she's there all the time. She's listening, she's paying attention, she's encouraging. Wonderful lady. So if you want to help with that, all you have to do is, if you send something in or put it in the box, just earmark it that it's to help Yanni get here for Sukkot. And we'll help get her a ticket. Okay? And we could do that with anybody that, it shows that level of commitment. All right? Shows the level of commitment. It's funny because at the same time, Robert and I get phone calls from people, and the person hung up on me the other day, right? Because we had a person call up, not a part of the group, didn't really know anything about us. I think they randomly found us on the internet or whatever it is, called up somewhere here in the States, started asking for help and benevolence, and got very offended and insulted that I said, well, we don't generally give that to people we don't know. Do you know us? Who are you? They didn't know. They just thought we should just give them money. And by the way, that phone call probably works 1 out of 100. Remember we get the 100 no's? How many yeses does that person need? Okay? Just 1. But there are people that will do that. But then there's people like Yanni who you see. She participates. She's on every live stream that she can be on. She's in the studies. I would do a whole lot to help somebody like that. Okay? Anybody else? Okay, Daweed?
I just wanted to thank you for teaching everything that you've been trying to funnel into me and straighten me out with over the course of the last few months. I wanted to also bring out what you said about the failure thing and failing. Every time I play chess, as you all know, and every time I have somebody that is not as good as I am, I always tell them, look, you're playing somebody who's better than you that you know is better. The point is that losing is actually good because you're learning by that losing. Mm-hmm. You never get better by playing somebody who's less than you. You always get better by playing somebody who's better than you. And so, as an example, I played somebody real recent, Daniel Hatt, and I played him in a manner where I lost. But by losing
Good
to
job,
him,
Daniel.
by losing to him, I figured out how to beat him. And I won't go into how many times I beat him. But the point is that I learned by losing.
Bad job, Daniel.
The point is that I learned by losing to him how to beat him. And that's how it is with life.
If you learn in life, when you make a mistake, if you're paying attention, okay, failing, so to speak, or being unsuccessful can be very valuable if you take the lessons out of it instead of just getting upset about it. If you learn something. Okay, look, a lot of you went to college, and when you went away to college, you paid a reasonable amount of money for school. I mean, we're talking about thousands of dollars for an education. Some of you don't appreciate some of the things that happen in your life for hundreds of dollars instead of thousands, that if you learn the lesson from it, were worth every penny. When you compare it to the money you spent on things that really weren't necessarily so worth it, some of the stuff that you had to take classes for that were like, really? I got to pay $300 a credit for this? Or $600 a credit, or whatever it was at the school? Some class you're never going to use for anything? But if you learn a life lesson, and that life lesson ended up costing you $1,000, and you actually learned the lesson, money well spent. I know you wish you could have avoided it. That's great. But if you learned, you won't likely make the same mistake twice. Very well learned. Where's the mic? Zarek? No, Amy.
Just wondering what your recommendation is, like 5-10% to put aside for savings in case your car breaks down. Like, how does that figure into stuff?
As long as it's not, budget as much as you can to get to $1,000 quickly. Like an emergency fund type of thing for your car, whatever could break down, anything that could go wrong. Okay, if that's 5%, 10%, 1%, I don't care if it's $10 every now and then or whatever, just start putting some money aside. And I don't want to so much call it savings, call it that emergency fund. Okay, where you're putting money aside. And get there as fast as you can afford in your budget. But figure out, if you know what your expenses are, because remember you did your month study, and you know what your income is, you know at the bottom if there's anything left. If there's anything left, take a piece of that and throw a budget line in for emergency fund. And until that gets to $1,000, leave that there. Now, the goal after that is to start accumulating a few months of life expenses. Like, let's say your monthly expenses are, make a round number. Let's say it's, $5,000. Would that be okay? Monthly expenses? That's a lot. That's $60,000 a year. How about your monthly expenses being $2,000? That's rent, everything. Okay? So how about if you could accumulate $6,000 to have in the bank so you could afford 3 months in case you lose your job or something goes bad? That is what they recommend. Then 6 months, etc. I mean, there's guys out there that talk about this stuff, Dave Ramsey and other guys that are very good with these things. Okay? And so, yes, first thing is an emergency fund. So if anything goes wrong, it doesn't mess up the rest of what you're doing. Yeah, you're not going to be happy spending the money, but it's money that was meant to be spent. So that's good. You have it. You don't get as upset. However, then what happens when you have something big happen, like you lose your job? Emergency funds are not going to cover that. The emergency fund was for like if the car breaks down or the washing machine breaks or the refrigerator breaks or some other thing. It's not for, all of your expenses. So your next goal would be to accumulate, 3 months, then 6 months, or as many months as you can, expenses. Guess what? Because if you've got that covered, that gives you time to make different choices if something bad happens. You don't have to just take the first thing offered. But don't use that emergency 6 months to say, I don't have to do anything for 3. I'll look for a job in a couple of months. I'm going to kick back. No. You go out there and try to get one right away. But you don't have to take just anything. You could be a little bit selective because you bought yourself some time. And what if you don't find anything? Well, you're not as stressed because you bought yourself some time. So that would be the next goal. But most of you want to make sure to first figure out how to have, more money at the end of the month. Let's figure that first. So as you get to the end of the month and you got some excess, then start taking the excess and putting it very quickly in big chunks as you can to that $1,000. Once you get the 1,000, you can now make it smaller and have the rest of that excess going towards the 3 months, 6 months, etc. expense fund. That money should be ideally in a separate place or a separate account where you don't touch it unless you're using it for what it's designed for. You don't dip into that. Kind of like tithing, right? It's dedicated money. The $1,000 emergency fund is not for, buying some luxury thing. Just because you want to spend some money and you have 1,000 sitting. It's for when something goes bad, breaks, and needs to be replaced, and you would otherwise not have the money or it would mess your budget up. How many of you have ever had that happen? The thing breaks and your budget gets really thrown. Wouldn't it have been nice to have $1,000 set aside for that? Because then it won't mess your budget up at all. Your regular income flow and expense flow goes just like it normally does. Okay? So as far as getting out of debt, I'm a big fan of now, Dave Ramsey does what he calls the debt snowball, pay off your smallest one, and then your next one, and next one, and the next one. I disagree, only from the point of view, he does that because people are not committed. If they were so they need to feel successful. So get rid of the small one first. Well, I say get rid of the one with the highest interest rate first. It's the one that's bleeding the bad. I mean, if you got a couple little cuts and something's gushing, let's stop the gushing one first. Okay? Now, if you've got one that's really small, a few $100s, you can just get rid of it, just get rid of it. But if you've got a couple of them that are reasonably similar in size, get rid of the one that's the highest interest. It's costing you the most. Don't get rid of the one that's, just the smallest in size with the smallest interest, if that's what happens. The one with the highest interest, get rid of first. It's costing you the most. Even if it happens to also be the smallest one, great, just get rid of it then. Okay? So I would work on getting rid of them one at a time. Don't accumulate new ones. Decide I'm not doing this anymore. Okay, where's the mic? Okay, Josh?
All right.
Stand up.
Yeah, sure. Most of you guys know that I'm relatively new here, and be that as it may, I feel like, having gotten to know some of you, I feel, comfortable enough sharing this with you. I kind of trust you guys, and I want to say, that I know some people are in the financial situation that they are because they, try to help others that they care about, or family. And I want to say, and use myself as an example, don't make the same mistake I did, or at least, don't be afraid to cut off somebody who is taking advantage of you,
Amen.
If you know that they are full on doing it. I've had 2 family members take advantage of me, upwards of about $25,000, and if I had not done that, I might be in a better place today, because of that. But don't be afraid to cut those people out. I mean, right now, I'm nothing to either of those people because of what I did, but I couldn't care less because they were toxic to my life. And, once you get rid of that and you get it off your shoulders, it feels so amazing. So, and you guys have helped me with, healing in that too. So,
Amen.
Thank you all.
Amen. Thank you, Josh. So that goes along with the idea of not only with the ministry but with each other. Do not enable or be codependent. Okay, so Josh had a situation where some family members, took basically advantage of their relationship with him and his personality and his nature and his generosity and his not wanting to have conflict, and basically really ripped him off for a lot of money. Now, the good news is, we talked about this for quite a little bit of time the other night, the good news is he's learned that lesson, and while he knows he'd be in a different place today had he not done it, he also knows if he doesn't take that and move forward, he won't be in any better place another 5-10 years down the road. So what we're doing is we're learning from it, and he's definitely learned from it. He's cut some of those people out of his life because they were toxic and they were just draining the funds out. They burned their own bridges, he said. But, some of that is, in his case, it was family members that were not like his children. But some of you have children and parents, because you're old enough where you could be trying to support either one, that are just taking full advantage out of you. A lot of you with the children. Okay? And I can tell you there's one family I counseled that was basically taking really good care of their children, and then they had an opportunity to move away from those children, but they were like, but if we move away from those children, how are they going to handle things? I said, I don't know. Let's see. And they're doing great. They figured out how to thrive on their own. But the parents, the rescuing, has got to stop. Because you're rescuing them before they actually even need rescuing. Because you don't even want them to have a possibility of suffering and having to do. No, that doesn't work. Don't coddle. Don't enable. Uplift, encourage. I'm not saying just be harsh and cold. Get in there and tell them, I believe in you. You can do this. I know you can do this. But. No, but. You can do this. And they will. They'll make it. And you know what? If they don't, you have a safety net. It's just not a hammock. I love that. I'm going to keep using that. Okay, it's a safety net. It's not a hammock. So stop letting them get all cushy up there in the hammock. What are you going to stand there and feed them grapes and blow them, like have a fan and everything while they're laying in the hammock? Because some of you are enabling them, and they drive your car, live in a place you pay for, and all that. Why? Are you really helping them? I mean, you're handicapping them because they're not functioning as adults. Some of you need to just, when they're out of the house, change the locks and tell them, here, go. It's time. Get them out of your basement or whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. It needs to be done. Okay, where's the mic? Okay, in the back, Josh? No? Oh, I'm sorry, James first, then Josh.
My wife and I use a credit card. We don't have a debit card, but we charge everything, and we pay everything off every month. We don't carry any interest, and the bank also gives me money to charge. So I get an extra $200 a year by just paying my bills with a credit card. So it might apply to some people here, but you got to have discipline.
Yeah,
You
no, the
have
whole
to
thing
have
is in most people in their financial challenges, they're there because they lack discipline. So we don't want the temptation, okay? I use the American Express because it gives me two things, the miles and the luggage is free because I have a Delta one when I fly Delta and I don't have to pay for luggage things. So it works for me. But I've developed the discipline to only use it knowing I'm paying it off every month. And it's a card I have to pay off every month. Okay? Now, they do have an option now with American Express to pay it off if you don't mind paying like 24% interest a month or whatever it is that they want to charge. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's not the tiny things that you might get on a Visa card. I mean, it's this huge thing. Because they don't want you to do it. They want you to pay it off and just keep everything going and stay in good standing. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with using plastic, and plastic is a way to get some other advantages, but most of you don't have the discipline, and you don't keep track enough to know when you're using it how much you're spending. So you need to, look, when you used to write a check, some of you were good enough to have a check ledger where you wrote it down in your little checkbook, what you wrote. So you know every time you spend what you spend. But a lot of you just keep handing out that card, swiping it, putting in the chip, whatever it is. You have no idea what you're spending. The first thing you have to do, no matter how you use cash, plastic, I don't care how you do it, paper or plastic. Okay, no. If you're, whatever you're doing, keep track of it. That's all. Know what you're spending. So I'm totally with James on the idea that if you had the discipline and they're going to offer you some advantage, that's great. All right? Because I was listening to someone talk about how they paid $130 for their luggage on the way here and have to pay it again on their way back, where they're going. I don't do any of that stuff because my card pays for all that. I could take my luggage and 3-4 people with me. So when my family goes, we all take our luggage for free. That's worth having the card. Okay? However, I got to make sure I pay that every month. I pay it in full. So yes, James is absolutely right. If you can get to the place of discipline and there's an opportunity where you can get an advantage, like cash back or whatever it is, take advantage. Take advantage. Okay, just remember, most of us, be honest with yourselves, you know what you'll do when you get plastic. So be careful with that plastic. Where's the mic now? Josh.
So a lot of you know I've some background in my situation, but I came in with a lot of baggage, and a lot of it was financial as well. Through getting to the point, where I was almost homeless for a little while, and Walmart was pretty much the only option for a period of time. But I'm finally to the point where I'm actually really excited. I get to set up a budget, like for the first time in a really long time. But prior to this, through this, it was like this process where I had to start filing away a lot of these things in my life that were wants and luxuries, and just get down to these bare minimums, and just identifying the difference between wants and needs, and realizing that, like, I was content and happy with just having only the needs, and these very few little, free wants that you can have, or whatever it is, and then a guitar that I already had, and some things like that. But if you can just comment on, the difference between wants and needs, and how we can really, because sometimes we convince ourselves that this is a need.
I covered that earlier. You weren't
I
here,
understand.
but
I apologize for that, but
that's okay. But I did cover it so you know. So
Yeah.
you go back and watch. I covered it.
yeah, and it's just, for me, it was really cool
Yeah.
to go through an impoverished period of time and have that lesson, like, physically, to learn, like, yes, these are wants. I don't need these things, and it was really rewarding. And now that I'm actually to the point where I'm going to be able to start budgeting those wants, I'm going to be able to appreciate that much more, you know, and have that. So, it's when you're going through these hardships and these difficult, don't let it go by without learning the lessons God wants you to learn through it. And even if it takes longer than you hoped or wanted, keep learning those lessons and stay consistent, because you can get there. And I'll just share one more blessing. After I left Walmart and wasn't there anymore, I got a new job within like faster than I was expecting, and it's making like twice as much as it was. And in the first month, I got like Canvasser of the Month is what it was, so a bonus, and they're all wondering, how is this guy getting so many of these appointments and things? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything different, but I really feel like it's just being blessed, that effort and things. It's nice to get through some of these things and stay encouraged and learn those lessons, and I'm excited to be able to start budgeting, right? Thank you.
Amen. And by the way, let's do it. And by the way, in Josh's situation, he was motivated. We talked about that. And he has guidance. He's in Raymond's group, and Raymond gives him guidance. He's talked to me, and I've given him guidance. And so those are two of those factors that have made a lot of difference in what's going on, is that he was motivated, but he wasn't just motivated. He's been motivated before, I'm sure. A lot of you will motivate at different times in your life, but without the guidance, it didn't get you the right results. And now he's getting guidance, and Father's blessing that, and it's getting some good results. But the thing about the needs, wants, great point, was covered. You can go back and listen to it on the recording. Okay, who else? Okay, Robert?
What's your feelings on co-signing loans?
I think you all know the answer, don't you? Okay. And the answer is no. Okay? Don't take anybody else's debt on you. All right? There may be some circumstance where it makes sense, but only if you're getting part benefit, part ownership, and part something, because you're co-signing because you're going to be part of the value is coming to you. If you're only doing it so that someone else can get something they're not prepared to do on their own, well, then they're not ready to do it on their own. And so help them get to where you're enabling them to not need to do it themselves. If they want it bad enough, they'll figure out how to do it. Okay? I mean, we could theoretically probably work it out to buy this camp that we've been wanting to buy. And we probably could get other people involved in all kinds of other things, and it would not be the right way to do it. The bottom line is we can't afford it yet. If it doesn't sell to anybody else, someday we will be able to afford it. But that was a decision we had to make about how much we could try to stretch to make this thing work. Do we go and stretch and put us in a state of like basically nothing in the bank? No. And then put us under the stress of having a huge nut every month to pay and no money to build on the property. So we'd have this wonderful property that's useless. For how long? Until we get resupplied in the funds. Until the refunding happens, we wouldn't be able to do anything. Yeah, we'd be really at zero, So you have to. So we could find ways to make it work, but is it actually smart to do? Individual counsel wouldn't be a bad idea if it's a family member and the situation and what's going on. But generally speaking, no. Why do we want to do it? Because we care and we want to help them, but that's not necessarily helping. We just have to be careful that we're not getting to a situation where we're actually not helping, even though we think we're helping. Because guess who ends up on the hook? You. You'll end up on the hook. Now, it's one thing to co-sign, as we had to do. We had taken some handicapped people that we had been working with, and we put them in an apartment. To get them into the apartment, we co-signed for the apartment, okay, to get them on the lease. Okay, because they didn't have enough coming in from their limited government funds they could prove they could afford to make the payment every month, but they also needed to have somebody there to endorse or whatever, and so we did that for them. But you got to remember, is it something that they can't do or that they at the moment won't do because they haven't done the right things first? And so I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know what relative or friend or whatever it is, but I'm saying, but in general, I would say no. Do not co-sign for anything with anybody. Husbands and wives, yeah, you're both going to sign something. That's great. But other than that, no, don't do that. All right? Don't let your children take home equity loans out of your house. Don't obligate yourself to your children's student loans or any of those other things. You will end up in trouble with these things for sure, I promise you. How do I know? Because I know people who have already done these things and it already went bad. They let their children, because they wanted to help provide for them, at least in the way they thought they were, put them into a terrible financial place. Okay, who's next? Okay, in the back here.
I just wanted to say that, well, two things. According to mortgage banking, I had 4 years of mortgage banking. They do recommend that you have 3 months worth of mortgage payments available in your savings account, as well as utilities. Just because of the processes of foreclosure can take up to 3 months. They say that is the minimum you should have available for an emergency fund for your housing.
Yep.
I also just want to thank Yah that my husband and I, it took us 2 years, but we are 100% debt free.
Yeah.
So that is huge. One thing about that, I will put a warning out to you. If your family members who find themselves in need quite frequently find out you do not have debt, they assume that means you are cash rich. That means your phone will be taking phone calls, you will be getting knocks on your door for emergency funds, and I have had to learn how to say no. So just be aware, and if anybody has questions about their mortgage banking stuff, if Rabbi, if that's okay with you, I can help you with a few questions and answers if anybody
Okay, that's fine.
wants to know how to call. So
That's good. Okay, so the lesson that Josh learned and the lesson that maybe Robert will have to learn and the lesson that you learned is you have to be okay saying no. But then your children will be all mad at you. That's not that's never happened before. You've never said no to a child? But they're adults now, and they're more mean about it. Are you not still the parent? When did that stop happening? They aren't children anymore. You need to look them in the eye and say, you're grown up, fix it yourself. I raised you to stand on your own. So stand up on your own 2 feet and do what you need to do. There are no shortcuts. Going to you is the shortcut they want to take. Tell them, that's great, I appreciate it, but there's no shortcuts. You want help? I'll guide you. You could be part of the guidance. They're motivated. You could be the part of the guidance. It's your child. It's your responsibility, actually, to guide them. Now, if you don't feel comfortable, help lead them to someone who can. Where's the mic? Okay, in the back here, Helen Sue.
I guess I would have to call you again after this meeting. What do you think about life insurance?
From what point? From what perspective?
It seemed, well, what's happened with us is we had a large policy in order to provide income for me if anything happened to my husband. And with the economy the way it is, it has been, they keep deleting the amount that we have and keeping the prices the same. So, so we went
Okay,
from
they shouldn't be able to do that. If you've got a policy, that policy should have a guaranteed benefit.
So I started off with a $75,000 policy for me, on him.
But was it renewable as a renewable policy? Like was it like a term policy?
No, not term. It was called Generation 3 or something like that.
Okay, see, they came up with all these crazy things. I used to sell insurance for a brief time with New York Life. See, add that to the list. Okay?
It seems like because it went from, on him, if anything, it was going to be a backup for me. So it went from $75,000. They've moved it down now. I've only got $38,000 in there. But the payment has never
Well, it sounds to me
decreased.
you're getting ripped off. You need to change companies.
Well, I already called a couple different places. They said they figured it up. This is the cheapest one. It's New
there
York
you go.
Life. New York Life. I mean,
New
it's a
York
good-
Life. Okay. That's who I worked for. But that was in 1991, so I won't take credit for the problems you're having right now. I don't know if it was 91. When was it that I was working for New York Life? Something like that. It's a long time ago. So with life insurance, look, I think that it is important that you have enough money somehow, some way, to cover whatever's supposed to happen to you, whatever you want happening to you when you pass. That you don't pass that burden onto your children. I think that's your problem, and you should cover it. You should have it worked out so that it's covered. Now, the other part of it is what she's talking about, which is the idea that, if he's the provider, And then what if something happens to the provider? The provider may want to have some insurance to help cover them, so the other one can be provided for when that provision is no longer there. I'm not really qualified at this point or licensed to give insurance advice from that point of view, but I would say that it's a good plan to make sure that somehow, even if it's just cash in the bank, you've got the money to take care of your final needs so that somebody else isn't burdened with that. Okay? Now, as far as providing for the spouse, we get back to having that money you put aside for investment to take care of your spouse. Because if you have a retirement plan and a retirement fund and all this other stuff put away, that money should cover both of you, and whichever one of you survives and one goes first, it should cover that person. And then you don't need the insurance. Insurance, again, in this case, should be for the unforeseen, unpredictable, early, unexpected type of thing, as opposed to getting to that ripe old age when it starts to get more and more likely it's going to happen. Now, the other stuff is something you should have done. The problem is nobody teaches us that. So we're expecting things like the big life insurance payment to cover everything, or we're like the Social Security or whatever it is. These are somebody else taking care of our problem. Or we're paying for some big bonus to come in with some people might get $100,000 or $200,000, whatever kind of policy, term life or whatever they get, and these things are supposed to then somehow take care of you for a few years. And by the way, when people start getting these things, they think that it's going to only take this much money to be able to live for a year. Only thing is, by the time they might actually need it, inflation and everything else, or the devaluation in this case of the dollar, we don't have inflation, but we got certainly devaluation. Now you need this much, okay, to survive a year. So I would say at the minimum, you would want just something that possibly is in place to cover your death situation, your whatever it would take to. It's expensive to put somebody in the ground. Okay, so and also realize it's a side note that no matter what you want done, you won't be there. So whoever's left behind is going to do whatever they want. Because people will ask me, well, is it okay to cremate? Is it okay to do this? Does it really matter to you? They're going to do what they want. You can't stop them. So that's why I would say it's okay to do whatever it is, because Yahweh is not going to punish you because they chose to cremate you or whatever it is. Because that question comes up a lot. Okay, especially when we have older people in the group, and they're worried about the death expenses. Living is expensive. Death is expensive too, apparently. And so... I don't even know what the deal is with that insurance. I'm guessing that what they're saying is for you to maintain the same premium, they're no longer going to give you the same benefit. Okay? That money now only pays for that little bit. Okay. That's why we used to give people, when I sold it, policies with a guaranteed benefit and a locked-in premium. Okay, whole life was that way. Okay? You paid such and such a month, and you got a guaranteed death benefit of so much, and that was the end of it. Okay? Nothing changed. Now, it wasn't cheap relative to what you could have paid for term insurance or some other thing, but you locked everything in. Okay, and that was what was available. Okay. That's stretching my memory from many, many years ago now on insurance.
Wanted to ask the question, what is the vision of MTOI? Working together to serve the body more effectively. Why are we looking to the world to provide the needs that we should be providing for each other?
Amen.
So, as Rabbi has given us a vision, we have to look outside the box of just a property. Some of us, like myself, will be getting old in the next 20, 30 years. I don't want to have to rely on a nursing home to take care of me. I'm hoping yeah. I don't trust you, man. No. I don't want to have to rely on my kids having to worry about paying off my debt or whatever it is. Or we have to look bigger than ourselves. We have to look bigger than the world has offered for us. We got to look to our Father, and then once this body is up and running, as Rabbi is trying to establish for all of us, not just this group here, he's trying to encourage everybody. Look, we got to have a functioning body to be a light in the world. And if we're taking care of each other, this young lady over here won't have to worry about a life insurance policy because we're taking care of her.
Amen. Amen. But that would take actually coming into true community, okay, which is Back to the first century, that's what they were trying to build. Well, I shouldn't say try, that's what they built. Okay? But that requires us to have a level of structure and trust in that structure and trust in each other to actually come into community. And so, I don't know that we're ready. One day, hopefully soon, we will be, but I don't know that we're ready. Okay, Santi.
I guess this is related to what you just mentioned. Whenever I read the book of Acts, chapter 2, verses 44 to 45, it says, "And all those who believed were together and had all in common, and sold their possessions and property and divide them among all, as anyone might have need." How to apply this in today's world?
Okay, now there's more to those verses if you continue that says that they took basically everything and laid it at the feet of the apostles, who then did the dividing. Okay? So they were there as a structure to hand out and to bring the needs together so that the people were not taking advantage of the system and nobody was doing anything they shouldn't do. But see, again, are we ready to have all things in common? Are we ready to sell all our stuff and be part of? See, that's asking a lot. That's when we started thinking, oh, this is a cultish thing. And you know what? A lot of groups have tried it, and they were all very cultish. And so I'm not interested in that label. Okay, so I do a lot of things to try to avoid that label. I try to make sure it's clear we're not doing some of the things that could easily get... You notice we never have Kool-Aid at our things that we do. In 15 years, we've never put iced tea, lemonade, no Kool-Aid. Okay? You laugh, but that was actually a decision we made the very first year we ran a feast. Someone said, well, what are we going to put out for drinks? And someone said, well, what about Kool-Aid? I said, nope. Never had since. Okay, so we've never put Kool-Aid out at a feast. All right? But at some point, I think we're going to need a Goshen. Okay? So we might need to have a property that we'll call MTOI Goshen. Just like the Goshen that, you know, the Israelites were kind of kept safe in, but they were enslaved, but they were kept safe in that place during the plagues. All right? Now, of course, the first place they went was called what? Sukkot. So maybe name our place Sukkot. That's where we should be keeping Sukkot. All right? I'm pretty sure that was the first place they went. Okay? Did I get that right? Okay? Someone check Numbers 33. It lists where they went. Okay, so, who's next? Okay, Aubrey? Okay, I'm sorry. And then I'll go back to Sharon. Go ahead, Aubrey.
Would you ever consider doing a teaching from a biblical perspective? Because I know, doesn't it say somewhere in the Torah how it talks about leaving our children an inheritance?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
you were called really not nice things if you did not take care of your children and their children.
Right. And then, you know, also because I'm a mother of young kids, training up a child in the way they should go. That finances, you know, so they're not repeating our mistakes. And we can probably maybe hopefully avoid or prevent some of the mistakes that we made, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, you know, we are greatly distracted from the bigger program just because we're trying to make ends meet right this second. We're not thinking about the next generation. We're trying to barely make our own selves. See, that's part of why you got to get yourself straight. And when people talk about, you know, well, I don't need to have a lot of money, or I don't want a whole lot of money and focus on money because money is such an evil thing and everything. Well, you know what? What good things can you do for other people that don't take money? Not a whole lot. A lot of things that people need, if they need housing, clothing, if they need any kind of appliances, or if they need transportation, all these things cost money. Think of all the good that's done if you had some. Remember, it can be, if focused on and loving the money itself, a problem and the root of evils, but it's also used to give all kinds of blessings to people. What? 33.5. Was it the first place? Thank you, 33.5. Okay, so Numbers 33.5. So, all the patriarchs are wealthy. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they were rich guys. By the way, Yeshua was rich enough walking around with the apostles that they never noticed that Judas was stealing so much. The money bag had so much, they didn't even notice Light Fingers Louie there taking what he took. Yeah, they were wealthy. And actually, Torah says that you would be wealthy if you would just listen and trust. He wants you to have wealth. He wants you to have abundance. Why do we say, have you eaten, are you satisfied? Because in that chapter it says, and when you have eaten and are satisfied and built big houses and have all these great things, blah, 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 that gives all this wonderful stuff that you have, don't think it's from your might and strength that you have these things, but that Yahweh gives you the ability to create the wealth. Okay, so when we do that little thing after each meal, we're abbreviating, Deuteronomy 8 through, where it goes into all the way to verse 18. Have you eaten or you're satisfied? That whole little section there. Okay? So we are abbreviating it, yes. But in doing so, we're getting the point that it talks about all stuff, food, housing, and crops, and all sorts. He gives and gives. Well, he said, notice that it says he gives you the ability to create it. He didn't say he just hands it to you. You've been given the ability to create all the wealth you need. Now what are you going to do? That's really this whole seminar could have been just that. He gives you all the ability to create wealth. Now what are you going to do? That's really what it's up to. What are you going to do? Are you going to get motivated to get the guidance to go forward? Where's the mic back there somewhere? Okay, I'm sorry, Sharon, that's right. Whoop.
I thought it was on. I'm sorry. I just wanted to remind everybody that you cannot outgive Yahweh.
No.
But I'm a single mother, and I have 2 children, and I've been a single mother for a long time. My children are grown, and they always have a crisis. And finally, I said, no more crisis. When you're single, you don't have that other person backing you up, so you have to do things maybe that you might feel guilty for. But I finally said to both of my children, I said, I know that I have a limited income. You're younger than me, and that I can't give you any more help than I've already given you, because I know when I need it, you won't have it to give to me. And that took off the guilt from me, because I knew it was true, and they knew it was true. And they never have come back to me, and they knew then, at that time, that they were on their own.
Amen. Amen. Look, some of you, for whatever reason, you might be looking forward to an inheritance. You may be looking forward to when the parents, not that you're looking forward to them passing, but when they pass, you already kind of have an idea that you may get some money, or the houses may be sold, or whatever, you may be getting something. My wife and I have not a single thought of us ever getting anything from either parents. We're not planning on that. We're not counting on it. We don't expect anything. That's not even a part of any of our equations. Now, will we? I don't know. It's not a thought. We're doing what we need to do to provide what we need to provide, to get the things done that we need to get done, and it's not about any other shortcuts or any other thing to count on. Okay, we're taking responsibility for ourselves and you are the head, starting with you, of everything that starts going down below that. Your parents had to take care of from there going down, and they did whatever job they did. You need to do whatever you do. That's where the verses talk about, that you are responsible. Is that the verse you looked up? Or did you have something else you wanted to say? Okay. All right, so let's just understand, what was one of the first things I said? It starts with you taking responsibility. Part of that responsibility is generationally. Now, generationally means preparing them to do what you're doing, but not doing it for them. It's not your responsibility to do it for them. It's for you to make them successful adults. Because you only have them for a short while. Some of you have them way too long. You only have them for a short while. Then they're supposed to transition into fully functional, self-sufficient adults. Okay, now your parents may have dropped the ball with you, part of why you're messed up. Fine. Generational cursings really is more or less simply imitation generationally of the same stupidity or the same ignorance. Well, you know how that ends? You get to say, whoever decided to do the water balloon thing right behind it was not a good idea. Can we get them to be quieter? All right. Okay, we need to work this out so that we understand that you can decide that this stops with you. Okay, you say this generational thing stops with me. I'm going to change, and then it's going to change from me going forward. Amen? Amen. Okay, Daweed, and then we got to pretty much wrap this up. We're late.
So in Genesis 12:5, going back to the patriarchs being rich, Abraham, he left his country basically with his wife, Lot, his brother's son, all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. It doesn't mention a whole bunch of wealth. After he came out of Egypt, then he started getting some wealth, and then he started having capital to build something.
Amen.
Same with Jacob.
That's a good point.
He crossed the Jordan with a staff. And then when he went up, and after he got his wives and built
He
wealth.
left with a lot of wealth, yeah.
Yes, he left with a lot of wealth. But the
Amen.
point is you start out, and there's cycles. And you might actually have to go back into something, but you don't stay there.
Amen. Amen. All right. Unless there's anybody else with anything critical, we're going to wrap it up here because the Holy Day is starting. And I want to give us a few minutes to get ready for that. And of course, supper we have is also starting in about 20 minutes. So I want to make sure we're ready for that. Okay? We got that all covered. Okay, volunteers to close us in prayer. Okay, I see a lot of hands going up. Bring it back to Greg. We'll have Greg go ahead and do it. In the back, there we go.
Avinu Malkeinu, Abba, we praise you, thank you that you brought us together at this time. And no matter what vision we have, we pray, Abba, that it's your vision by what you've taught us through your leadership, through your structure. And we would continue to look to you for guidance as well as those you've put in place above us. So in all those things, we give thanks for our ability to be here, standing in your presence, giving you the kavod, the glory, the praise. And we would forever thank you in the authority of your Son, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I hope that was a blessing. I hope that was good. I hope it was useful. Okay? Last point. It will only be useful if you use it. Okay? It's otherwise, it was just a bunch of information that kept you entertained for 3 hours. You have to do something with it. Amen? Amen. Blessings, everyone.